You're in the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio. And now, here's Gene Steinberg.
With Gene and Chris, we're back at the Paracast as we ponder the future and the past in the paranormal field, and also the listener reaction to last week's episode featuring Grant Cameron. And he was talking, of course, about disinformation, secret documents, not so secret documents, crash retrievals, and so on and so forth. Now, Chris, just to get started with this, as you know, during the discussion, I kept asking him about crash retrievals, but there wasn't a lot to say beyond, of course, Roswell.
Yeah, I wonder why he would even have that in the title if he wasn't ready to field questions about it.
I know. I just kept asking him, and he sort of skirted around this topic, and finally I said, well, obviously, it's Roswell or nothing. And then when you brought up the speculation about possibly the Roswell craft being a test aircraft. No, there's no evidence to test aircraft.
Not to be familiar with Joseph Farrell's work. I mean, the guy's written 4 books on the subject, and it's cutting-edge stuff. The guy's an Oxford research expert. It just didn't. I couldn't believe it. I need to go ahead and send him a list of books to read to get himself up to speed on the, in my estimation, the very strong likelihood that Roswell was somehow very terrestrial in nature and somehow had to do with technology based on some of the work that the Germans did in the 30s and 40s.
And why assume there weren't test aircraft of that kind? That doesn't make sense either. There had to be. We recovered prototypes and scientific research documents. We took on board a lot of those famous scientists who worked for the German government during World War II.
And so we took on the entire German Soviet intelligence force in Eastern Europe. Reinhard Gehlen basically was appropriated by the Americans, and his entire intelligence gathering apparatus just became ours.
Doesn't make sense. And also, well, we can understand here the scenario. That's why, for example, there was this report, a flying saucer was recovered at Roswell, and then they changed it, and they said it was a balloon, and possibly someone from military intelligence calls them on the phone and says, hey, guys, it's not a flying saucer, it's just one of our test aircraft. Don't tell anybody about it, just say it's a balloon or something. That's a very simple explanation. Yeah. And Mikey, what happened? Of course, the criticism here is he says, well, what about the bodies? The little people. But you know what?
There's only 5 people out of the 300 witnesses that ever actually claimed to have seen them, and each one of them slowly over the years has been shot down. I mean, Glenn Dennis, there's some question about his assertions. The mysterious nurse has never been found. There's just so much about Roswell that doesn't add up, and it's just become the thing of myth and legend, basically.
And even if pilots are found, they could have been perfectly human pilots who died during the crash, and then the legend and the memories changed normal-looking people wearing possibly some kind of flight suit to become gray aliens or something.
Or Annie Jacobson's assertion that it could have been Joseph Mengele back engineering children and having genetic mutants that are flying around. It just gets crazier and crazier, Gene.
Okay, they had jockeys. Tend to be small, slim, light.
Good name for a band, Gene. The Saucer Jockeys.
There probably is a band by the name of Saucer Jockeys. We're not looking hard enough. The other thing that bothers me about all this speculation about disinformation. So, as Grant Cameron puts it, a whole bunch of information is being put out there, some of which is fact, some of which is fiction. You figure it out. Why bother releasing anything? What's the point of it all?
Yeah, true.
Why play the game? Unless it's rogue agents, and we can think of a few names. But, can you spell Richard Doty?
Yeah, what's the motivation is what you're saying.
What is the motivation to release a bunch of information that's ridiculous? Because even if you do, only a few people will ever get the real information from the fake. Why even publicize it? Keep it a secret.
Well, it may be some sort of strange, sort of back-engineered, preemptive cultural program of kind of gradual disclosure. perhaps it's being used as a red herring to keep people off what could possibly be real stories that need to be followed up on.
Yeah, but all it does, though, is denials without evidence or the hint of evidence would eventually cause people to shut down. But if you keep feeding evidence, all you do is make people continue to talk about it. What is the value? Where's the logic in that?
Yeah. Boy, when you try to second guess that wonderful oxymoron of military intelligence, it's virtually impossible.
Well, there is that, of course. The fact that we don't know what military intelligence is doing. We don't know what particular agents might want to do, might decide to do. We can possibly suggest there may be some kind of test program to see how people might react to the truth, if there is a truth
right
about UFOs to be revealed. You want to test public reaction, and maybe that's done with the UFO field. You already have people involved in investigating these things. Why not have them be useful, become unwitting pawns? It's kind of like, for example, when you buy a new tech gadget or a new operating system from Microsoft and Apple. You are the free beta tester. You report your experiences and they make it better. So the government, in turn, is using us to be the beta testers of techniques at disclosure. Let's see how people react to that. Let's see what they say, and then we'll come up with a conclusion how to handle it. I mean, now we see, of course, evidence of life on Mars, evidence of water. And how long does it take to say, all right, if there's water on Mars, there has to be microbial life? It goes without saying. But they're not going that far. But there has to be. And then think of it this way. If the conditions of Mars became bad over millennium, wouldn't the people on Mars, if there were people, just go inside the planet and caverns?
Yeah, go underground. And wouldn't the other potential life forms adapt?
And some might just leave the planet and go to Earth. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're Martians. I don't want to, of course.
I've been telling people that for years. They always accuse me of believing in aliens. And I said, well, wait a minute. How do you know we're not the aliens and they're more terrestrial than we are? I've been saying that for years.
Well, of course, the legend of the abandoned heroes, which is the Richard Schaefer story, where in his case, though, conditions on Earth became bad, and therefore two races on Earth migrated to the caverns, but maybe that happened on Mars. Maybe that legend of Schaefer happened on Mars, where the atmospheric conditions were getting worse and worse, unable to sustain life. Some migrated to caverns, maybe used some kind of artificial life-sustaining system, like in the movie Total Recall, the Schwarzenegger version. Remember, Mars had this artificial atmosphere and everything?
Atmosphere, yeah.
Sure. That's how it'd be done. And then after a while, maybe they decided, let's go look for a new home that already has a native atmosphere. Why have to mess with all these machines? They break down. What happens? People, or whatever they are, get killed. Let's go to Earth. And that's how we started. Oh, well.
Yeah.
There's always Battlestar Galactica, where 150,000 years ago in the TV series, the second TV series, the migrants came to Earth. Forget it. Today, we have a fascinating guest. He's been on the show before, Dr. Roger Leir. He was on the Paracast in 2006 and 2007. And he's a guy who has a site called alienscalpel.com. And the reason for the title, of course, is that he has supposedly removed alien implants or mysterious implants from people who may have been UFO abductees. He's a fascinating guy. He investigated the Varginha sightings in Brazil, which is supposed to be Brazil's Roswell. He's been involved in the field for many years, has a lot of information to offer. If you want to get in touch with us, contact us on Twitter, where we're known as The Paracast on Twitter. And we have loads and loads. Did I say loads?
Yeah, you did.
Loads of questions in our forums for Dr. Roger Leir, joining Gene and Chris in
The Paracast.
Hey, Hey neighbors, meetings are an essential part of any business. You know, making presentations to clients, collaborating with your colleagues. Well, make them as simple as possible to run and organize. Use GoToMeeting by Citrix, the easiest, most reliable online meeting service. With GoToMeeting, you can schedule an online meeting in seconds. Attendees can join with just a click from anywhere. Meeting materials are viewed on everyone's screen, making collaboration seamless. GoToMeeting is so easy to use for you and everyone joining your meeting. Plus, with GoToMeeting, hold as many meetings as you can for one flat rate. You have phone conferencing and voice over IP are included. You know, my listeners can try GoToMeeting free for 30 days, a month of unlimited online meetings free. Visit GoToMeeting.com, click on the Try It Free button, and enter the promo code PODCAST. That's GoToMeeting.com, promo code PODCAST.
Quantitative easing, unemployment at depression levels, Europe financial system falling apart, China getting out of U.S. treasuries. At the end of 2008, the time of TARP, the national debt was at $11 trillion, gold trading around $850 per ounce. Close to 2012, the national debt exceeded $16.4 trillion, gold doubled to $1,600 per ounce. The $20 trillion threshold for the national debt is inevitable. Politicians in Washington have a ferocious appetite for spending and stimulus. What's worse, a printing press to finance. 100 years ago, we had a gold standard to limit this madness, but now you have to adopt your own gold standard. Don't be fooled with paper promises. Get Midas Resources 10 Reasons to Buy Gold free by calling 800-686-2237. Understanding the gold and silver market may be the only insurance you could have to avoiding the next economic crisis. Call 1-800-686-2237 and order your free copy. Again, that's 800-686-2237.
Are you still a traditional smoker? Now experience a new lifestyle and try vaping with e-cigarettes by LeSig. Imagine no ashes, stains, nasty smell, or coughing and hacking. With LeSig e-cigarettes' revolutionary microelectronic technology, rechargeable battery, and unique replaceable cartridge, you'll get all the benefits and satisfaction of smoking without the hazards. Choose your taste from a wide variety of our new American-made vape-free e-liquids at LeSig.com. And LeSig smokes the competition by serving thousands of worldwide customers with real people customer service, fast, free, same-day shipping, and a 30-day warranty and satisfaction guarantee. So are you ready for a new vaping lifestyle? Then call 870-518-4307. That's 870-518-4307. Or visit LeSig.com, spelled LECIG.com. LeSig e-cigarettes for today's modern smoker.
Do you owe the IRS money that you can't pay? Are tax liens and levies ruining your life? Are you tired of being afraid just to go to the mailbox? If this describes you, then Dan Pilla can help.
Hi, I'm Dan Pilla, and I've been solving tax problems for more than 30 years. In fact, I wrote the book that made it possible to negotiate settlements with the IRS, and I've helped thousands of people do exactly that. Call now at 800-346-6829 to learn how I can help you. You know your IRS debt will not go away by itself, but you don't have to live in fear anymore. New changes to IRS policies will help more people than ever before eliminate their debts once and for all. There's no need for you to suffer another day with IRS debt. Call 800-346-6829. I can help you eliminate wage and bank levies, release tax liens, and negotiate a settlement with the IRS that will put your tax nightmare behind you forever. Call 800-34-NO-TAX or go to my website, taxhelponline.com. That's taxhelponline.com.
We'd like to hear from you. If you have a comment or question about the Paracast, send it to news@theparacast.com. That's news@theparacast.com. And don't forget to visit our famous Paracast community forums at forum.theparacast.com.
We're joined by Dr. Roger Leir, who's been exploring the UFO enigma for a number of years. He also has that site I mentioned in our previous segment, alienscalpel.com, and we have a link to it. So you can see the kind of research he does. And we're going to cover a few subjects. We have a lot of questions from our listeners. There's no way that we'll get to every topic, as a result of which we'll probably have him come back in the near future to kind of finish it. But I think before we do anything else, let's maybe do a quick overview of the kind of research you've done and then we'll focus on a few more specific things. Now, obviously, when you first appeared on the Paracast, the big question then was about your recovery of implants from people who said they were abducted, with the possibility that these may prove some kind of alien intervention. How did you get involved in looking into alien implants?
Gene, that was a historical event, getting involved in this. And if someone had told me that I would be doing this, 50 years ago, I would have said they're absolutely insane. At the time when I became involved, I was involved pretty heavily with a local MUFON group in Ventura County, California, and I was serving in the capacity of an investigative reporter for a periodical, a monthly periodical that we produced called The Vortex. And in doing so, one of my duties was to attend various UFO conferences and listen to all the speakers and then critique them in articles in the Vortex. And because I am who I am and what I was, I pretty much gave my opinion and with little care whether people enjoyed it or liked it or agreed with me or not. So if I thought somebody was a liar, I said so. And if I thought they were credible, I gave them credit for it.
So therefore, a few people maybe didn't like what you did.
Yes, there was probably more than a few. I just took, editorial license to, and of course, the editor of the periodical, allowed me to do this. And we actually sold more periodicals to non-MUFON members than we did to MUFON members, actually, because it became such a popular piece of work. Not just me, but we had some very other clever things going on, too, such as cartoons and other original articles. But anyway, to keep the story short, at one of these conferences, I was shown X-rays of what an individual touted was alien implants. They were X-rays of a foot with two apparent metallic objects in the big toe, and I turned around and laughed and walked away because to me this was as far as anyone could stretch the rubber. So,
Well, let's qualify that. You're a podiatrist, so you're you're the right person to ask about alleged evidence like this. Could you give us a time frame? What time period are we talking about here?
Oh, in the early 1990s.
Okay.
So, yes, that's correct. I'm probably more qualified than anybody else because at that point I had removed numerous objects from the foot. People step on all sorts of things. And in addition to that, we do a lot of surgery and to repair fractures and change the architecture of the foot and so on. And in doing so, we use metal, we use screws, plates, pins, just like the orthopedist does for your hip and so on. But what these look like was possible leftovers from a prior foot surgery. So, as I said, I laughed and walked away. Now, it was one thing to consider the possibility that there were non-terrestrial craft that was flying through our skies because after all, I've been researching this for a number of years and I'm old enough to remember my father bringing the San Francisco Examiner into our home, laying it on the table and reading the headline to my mother that said, U.S. Army Air Force captures flying saucer. And he went on to a long dissertation about how we weren't the only living beings in the universe and so on. So,
of course, you're talking about Roswell there, aren't you?
Yes, this was the Roswell event, and the headline was impressed in my mind, as was the scene in the kitchen and my father's explanation. Now, my father was an unusual man who, growing up as a child and in later years, always seemed to know things that other members of the family or friends didn't know. I don't know what his source of knowledge was. He was a 32nd degree Mason, 33 degree Shriner, Maybe he had friends that were in places that other people weren't. I don't know, but he was sort of a mysterious fellow. Had incessant arguments with my uncle, who I used to love to sit there and enjoy. But anyway, not to stray too far from that. So yes, I conceived the possible. Now you got to remember that there's a history to the development of where we were, and where we are now, as far as the subject of ufology is concerned. In the early 90s, although there were some, few abduction cases, major abduction cases on record, Betty and Barney Hill, Whitley Strieber, in the 70s, there was Travis Walton, and so on, the Pascagoula incident. There was, some people were starting to write, Bud Hopkins, David Jacobs, John Mack, etc. But by and large, the field of ufology, such as MUFON or any of the other organizations that were in existence at the time, really didn't accept alien abduction as a reality. So here's about the time, where I come along, and my cousin, Dr. Kenneth Ring, writes a book called The Omega Project, and his was a study. He was a tenured psychologist, PhD at the University of Connecticut. And so he writes a book looking for a common psychological profile for those that had UFO experiences and those that had near-death experiences. And his field of expertise, which was near death. Now, of course, this was also being funded by the University of Connecticut, so he spared no time or money in researching for this book. So all this sort of happened at the same time. But as I said, abduction was not really accepted at all. So if you don't accept abduction as a reality, then how in the world could you ever accept the fact that someone might have an alien implant? So I really said, I did walk away. I turned around and walked away, but the section director for our group coerced me into coming back and listening to what he had to say, and he showed me these x-rays again, and I said, well, to me, they look like leftovers from a surgery. When did she have her foot surgery? And he said, as far as I know, she never had a foot surgery. And I said, well, can you prove it?
And before we find out what to prove and what this is all about, we got Dr. Roger Leir joining Gene and Chris. You're in
the Paracast.
Are you tired of searching for great talk radio?
Something more important.
Search no more. We are the GCN Radio Network.
Don't complain about your cable bill going up and up and up. Do something about it. Grab a pencil and jot down this special number, 1-877-804-MY-TV. The more cable TV rates go up, the better digital satellite TV looks. So, disable the cable and get more of your favorite channels in 100% digital quality for less money. Call 1-877-804-MY-TV right now to sign up for packages starting as low as $19.99 and up to 4 rooms. And there's no equipment to buy. That includes your free HD TV upgrade, your free DVR upgrade, and your free professional installation. And the best part, the pristine digital picture and sound. Call 1-877-804-MY-TV. So, what are you waiting for? Pull out your major credit or debit card. Call 1-877-804-MY-TV. 1-877-804-MY-TV. Disable the cable, cut costs, and get more. Call 1-877-804-MY-TV. 1-877-804-MY-TV.
Your freedoms are on the line. The Second Amendment is in danger. How soon before your freedoms are taken away? What can you not live without? What is your greatest dependency? Is it your guns? Is it your home? No, it's food. It all boils down to the food supply. Tyrannical governments control people by controlling their food supply. Don't be dependent. Be self-sufficient. Don't wait for the government to feed you. Feed yourself. I can warn you, but I can't feed you. Do like Alex has done and get a supply of food from eFoods Direct. It's the best long-term long-term storable food on the planet. Get the popular Mega Patriot Pack free, a 24-day supply of food plus stove, cookpot, and fuel. Call 800-250-1857 or go to efoodsdirect.com/Alex and get up to 20 Mega Patriot Packs free with purchase. Build your food supply, be in control, be self-sufficient, and be a patriot. Call 800-250-1857 or efoodsdirect.com/Alex and get your free Patriot Pack today.
What's safer and cheaper than prescription drugs?
Glad you asked. The answer is Renovation Teas. Herbal remedies are much safer and much cheaper than prescription drugs. Taste great, and most importantly, herbal teas are effective and non-addictive. Renovation Tea is especially unique, and here's why. We spent years researching herbs and their beneficial properties. Renovation Teas uses only 100% organic, fair trade herbs. Our teas are blended towards specific ailments and health conditions, such as diabetes, blood pressure, anxiety, libido, detox, and much more. All Renovation Teas are formulated and hand-filled in Arkansas. Take care of yourself naturally, the way Mother Nature intended. Order Renovation Teas at renovationtea.com or call 870-784-3121. That's 870-784-3121. Renovation Teas. Renovate your health one bag at a time.
Are you or someone you love struggling with stress, anxiety, or less than perfect health? Hi, this is Pastor Jenny, and as a woman of faith, I spent many years in ministry burdened with anxiety and fear. But in 2010, I met Dr. Carolyn Dean, and I took her recommendation to try RNA drops. Within days of taking RNA drops, my anxiety began to lift. My joy was restored, and the peace of mind that I would have once called a miracle has now become normal to me. Discover what RNA drops can do for you. Order your free sample today at www.rnafreesample.com. That's rnafreesample.com. There you can order a free 30-day trial-size bottle of RNA drops by paying just shipping and handling. That's www.rnafreesample.com. Maybe there's a miracle waiting there for you.
This is Kurt Sutherland, the author of UFO Mysteries, and you're listening to the Paracast.
We continue. Dr. Roger Leir, we're talking about his early involvement in so-called alien implants with Gene and Chris in the Paracast. Dr. Leir, you were talking about this particular discussion where you wondered if this just wasn't an artifact of, bad surgery?
Well, it could have been bad surgery, or sometimes there are little pieces of metal that are left over that the surgery crew doesn't see, and they're fairly inert. So
as long as they don't leave a scalpel in your stomach.
Yeah, or some sponges or a towel. Now, I had a case that came in, non-foot case, that underwent a massive abdominal surgery and had a lot of medical problems for years, and they finally opened them up. Hard to believe, but they had left a surgical towel inside the abdomen.
Ooh, I hate to see the lawsuit for that one.
You know, the guy didn't sue anybody. He was just so happy to get it out and feel good that, and just had the attitude, well, anything can happen. So no retribution at all, but he wouldn't have had one heck of a case.
Oh, I bet he would.
Anyway, to carry on from there, yes, there's little bits and things sometimes might be left over, so usually unintentionally. So with that, as I said, I asked him the question, can you prove it? So with that, he reached into a bag, much like an aviator's bag, pilot for a commercial airline, one of those long square things with a handle on the top. Pulled out a giant stack of medical records, handed them to me, and said, would you like to go through these? And I stood there stunned and said, well, if you let me take them to my room, because we were staying in the same hotel. And they said, if I could take them to my room and take time to go through them, I will do that. So that seemed to please everybody. So I did, and I went through all the records, and this had gone back till almost the time that the child was born. It was a very complete set of records, and there was no evidence where she ever had a foot surgery. So I went back the next day And I said, well, if you think these are so usual, why don't you just take them out and see what they are? And he said, well, she probably would like to have that done, but she doesn't have any medical insurance and doesn't have any money. So I said, where does she live? And he said, well, in Texas. And I said, well, I'll tell you what. You get her to California, and I'll do the surgery at no charge. Now, I said this because I thought about it, and I said, I don't have too much recreation time, so here we can remove something that doesn't belong there. And I'll have a little fun in the meantime, proving that this was utter nonsense. So a couple of weeks went by, and I got a call from the individual who had another case with a metallic object in the back of a hand, sent me the x-rays, and we took him to a radiologist, and he verified the fact that this also was a metallic object. So he asked me if I could do this surgery, and I said, well, I don't do hand surgery, but I could have a friend of mine who's a general surgeon do it. So we did the two surgeries back to back, and again, to prove that this was utter nonsense and to have a little recreative laugh. So those were the first cases that were done, and there were some unusual happenings that happened right from the beginning. So maybe the surprise was on us.
I guess the question is here, in all this research of possible implants, was any evidence uncovered that proves something more than just some kind of piece of metal?
Well, zip ahead many years. We've now done 16 cases and produced 17 objects. And to bring the show to an utter halt and ends, we have now a 501c3 nonprofit scientific organization called ANS Research. We have an entire science board. We have one of the world's most famous nuclear physicists on board on the science board, Dr. Robert Kuntz. We have a laboratory where we're doing in-house science and looking for nanotechnology, of which at the time I started this wasn't in existence. And science was saying that nanotechnology couldn't happen. You couldn't make a carbon nanotube, etc. And now we find that in looking at these objects, we have carbon nanotubes. We have what are called non-terrestrial isotopic ratios. That simply means we all know what U-235 is, right?
Explain to our listeners who haven't kept up on the science.
Okay, well, U-235 is uranium-235, and we like to make bombs out of it.
Right, okay, so we're getting all this stuff that appears to be cutting edge. That's saying that the substances in these implants indicate some advanced technology?
It indicates specifically advanced nanotechnological science, which is far beyond that for which we know even the subject of the black budget is responsible for. I've been dealing with some firms that do black budget projects. They're looking at these materials, and believe me, these firms, one of them told me very recently, don't bring us a project that's 10 years in the future. Don't bring us a project that's 100 years in the future. Bring us a project that's at least 1,000 years in the future, and we'll look at your data. So they're interested in the data that we produce. Now, Dr. Robert Kuntz has gone one step further based on the Big Bang Theory and some mathematics that even I don't understand. It's advanced mathematics. He's able to determine where in the universe that the materials for these objects come from and the age of the society or advanced beings, where they come from and how old they are. So
okay, so this is just getting to be a little bit mind-boggling here, to put it mildly. So what has he determined? I'm not going to ask you how, because you say you don't know the math.
After I tell this, we might as well just hang up the show, because we've spilled the beans.
Well, let's just keep spilling it no matter what. We'll persevere.
Okay. All right. Dr. Kuntz, through, as I said, some advanced mathematics and constants based on the Big Bang Theory, he says that the material for these objects comes from about 1/3 away across the Milky Way galaxy. Now,
no, I can't understand that at all, how what kind of mathematics can determine that? Even if you were right, why would it have to be a race 1/3 the way through the Milky Way galaxy? I would think with all the possible Earth-like planets we have, it could be a mere 30, 40 light years away. Why that far?
All right, well, I'll explain that as best as I can. Number one, he's based a constant based on the time of the Big Bang. At the Big Bang, elements were fused and formed, and then they degraded over a period of time into their various isotopes. And as again, we were talking about U-235, that has to do with the number of neutrons and protons that are in the nucleus of the uranium atom. But if we mine uranium anywhere on Earth, the ratio of 235 to 234, etc., is approximately the same within 2%. If we mine the same element or uranium and it comes from an asteroid, a meteorite, Mars, or the Moon, we know what those elements look like, some of them. We can say that's a non-terrestrial, those are non-terrestrial elements, non-terrestrial isotopes of uranium. Now, Dr. Kuntz uses this, as I said, going back to the date of the Big Bang, where an element will essentially change through its isotopic ratio. In other words, if you let uranium become old enough, the isotopes fuse and become lead. If you take other elements that can change and they can transmute into, for example, beryllium. So he looks at the time that it takes before the isotopes begin to change, and that way he's able to calculate a constant with a distance factor.
I'll tell you what, we have a distance factor facing us right now, a severe one. We got to do the break. Dr. Roger Leir joining us, explaining advanced science, I suppose. With Gene and Chris, you're in
the Paracast. The GCN Radio Network, providing the world with hard-hitting talk radio. GCN. Great talk radio starts here.
Hey neighbors, meetings are an essential part of any business. You know, making presentations to clients, collaborating with your colleagues. Well, make them as simple as possible to run and organize. Use GoToMeeting by Citrix, the easiest, most reliable online meeting service. With GoToMeeting, you can schedule an online meeting in seconds. Attendees can join with just a click from anywhere. Meeting materials are viewed on everyone's screen, making collaboration seamless. GoToMeeting is so easy to use for you and everyone joining your meeting. Plus, with GoToMeeting, hold as many meetings as you can for one flat rate. You have phone conferencing and voice over IP are included. You know, my listeners can try GoToMeeting free for 30 days, a month of unlimited online meetings free. Visit GoToMeeting.com, click on the Try It Free button, and enter the promo code PODCAST. That's GoToMeeting.com, promo code PODCAST.
Ceramic body armor is rated to stop 6 hits. But what about the 7th? Unlike ceramic or Kevlar, Infidel body armor is proven to take hit after hit, and it just won't quit. Reasonably priced and designed for the smart civilian prepper, Infidel stops hundreds of hits from small arms to high-powered rifles. That means safety and peace of mind. Buy yours at InfidelBodyArmor.com. Spelled INFIDEL bodyarmor.com. Infidel Body Armor just won't quit.
We the people grow cotton, weave fabric, engrave ink, embed strips and fibers to protect from counterfeit and carting to a private bank, having it led back at interest, forcing taxes to service debt. This capitalism, or was Jefferson correct when stating a central bank issuing the public currency is a greater menace to the liberties of the people than a standing army? Hi, Teddy Anderson. I'm placing a free silver dollar in a book that explains our monetary system. Call for your copy, 800-686-2237. It's time to understand the system. Call 800-686-2237. That's 800-686-2237.
Virtually anyone could be tracking you right now through your cell phone. The fact is, anyone can track your calls, your text, emails, your every movement, but only if they can detect a signal.
That's the new warning from the American Civil Liberties Union. It's just released the results of an investigation that found law enforcement agencies across the country track personal cell phones on a regular basis as a form of surveillance.
That's why you need Block It Pocket. Block It Pocket is a standard or custom designed cloth pocket infused with pure silver that creates a complete Faraday enclosure for any mobile device. With Block It Pocket, all incoming and outgoing signals are blocked, including harmful radiation, and your device cannot be hacked or tracked by anyone. Handmade in the USA, Block It Pocket costs less than $30 and ships free to the lower 48. Call 888-315-9618 or click Block It Pocket, spelled BLOCKITPOCKET.com. Block It Pocket, enhancing health and privacy.
Farmers keep their livestock lean and healthy with a mineral-rich diet. Before market, they cut off the minerals, leaving them to crave high-calorie grains. If weight control is this easy, why prescribe surgery for humans? Avoid 900 different diseases by getting 90 essential nutrients. Check out sonsoflibertyteam.com, order your Healthy Start Pack, and get your 90 for life, or call 855-301-TEAM. Essential, not optional. 90 for life at sonsoflibertyteam.com or 855-301-TEAM. That's 855-301-TEAM.
Hi, this is Ted Anderson. Have you ever wondered why banks, stockbrokers, investment advisors won't talk about gold IRAs? They've been available since 1986, yet the financial industry won't recognize the value of gold for your retirement. Gold has outperformed paper investments, yet no word about IRAs. If you would like to have gold for your retirement, call 800-686-2237. Don't get left behind by rising inflation and low returns. Call 800-686-2237. Secure your future and call 1-800-686-2237.
This is Jerome Clark, author of the UFO Encyclopedia and other books. You're listening to the Paracast.
Okay, so maybe we're getting into the geek world here, trying to explain what all this is about. But I guess I understand, since we know something of the moon, we can look at half-lives and things like that and kind of guess about conditions there and about what these substances might be. But how do you do that with a place that you don't even know exists?
Well, you don't really have to know the place, but you do have to know the distance and how long it takes for the light to reach us, for example, from Alpha Centauri and so on. So that's how astronomically they're able to calculate distances between celestial bodies, which incidentally is another subject, because the Gliese catalog of star distances is going to have to be rewritten. Not to go off on a long tangent, but you're wondering why I'm making that statement. Einstein's theory has never been proven wrong. Theory of relativity, or theory of a minor relativity, it still holds water today. But you have to realize that most of his calculations were made on the speed of light in a vacuum. And at one time there was an assumption that space was a vacuum. Well, now we know through modern science that space is not a vacuum. It's filled with high-energy particles. So let's take the star Sirius, for example. We know that if light traveled from Sirius through a vacuum, it would take so long to get here, therefore we could calculate the distance. But that's not the way it works in space, because a photon coming from a celestial body will bang up against another high-energy particle, which will accelerate the photon. So the light will continuously go faster and faster and faster and faster. So when you're talking about the speed of light, you're talking about something else other than the Einstein equations of the speed of light in a vacuum. So as I said, one of these days, the Gliese catalog of star distances is going to have to be totally rewritten. Now, this comes into play with Dr. Kuntz's calculation of the isotopic ratio and conversion to other elements. It takes so long to do it, a certain length of time, and that time has a relativity to distance. And therefore, his calculation is 1/3 away across the Milky Way galaxy. Now, to borrow Stanton Friedman's paradigms or thoughts. Sometimes he has strange ones. But Stan simply said, if you live in New York, you don't go to New Jersey to buy a loaf of bread.
Well, that's easy for you to say.
Well, I know if that's true, because I don't live in New York and I don't go to New Jersey. Makes kind of sense. So if you're going to mine certain products, now most of these objects contain what are called meteoric iron. And meteoric iron is meteoric iron because the ratio of the nickel element to iron is such that it becomes meteoric.
Okay, let's kind of summarize this, because there's a lot of science here that may go over the heads of people like me who are not scientists. Okay, so let's look at this in the sense of we have something here that possibly indicates an advanced technology. Okay.
You're wrong. I'm sorry to correct you.
Okay, so it's not advanced technology.
No, it's not a hypothesis. It's a reality. We have objects that represent advanced technology that's far beyond what we know today.
So are we assuming then that these are like futuristic or advanced RFD chips? What sort of things would they be? Are we assuming these probes have a value in that sense that you monitor what's happening with the being into which it's implanted?
That is correct. Comparing them to an RFD chip is like comparing a modern television set to a crystal set, but the analogy, in essence, is true. It's a data-gathering device, and it's a device which we can detect outgoing radio frequencies, which we have done, and through some methodologies which I can't go into because I have data that is relatively secret coming from the government that will show that these frequencies are considered fixed or mobile deep space frequencies, which in itself presents another conundrum and another subject.
Well, the conundrum is here you're talking about secret information, and I understand if someone gives you something on the QT, you don't want to reveal the source other than the government. But can you give us a general idea of what we're getting at here? You're assuming the government knows something about these implants?
No, this is not in relation to implants. This is in relation to into the frequencies. For example, I have information for every single satellite that's in orbit owned by every single country and the frequencies they're broadcasting on. So when I say the frequencies that are coming out of these objects are fixed or mobile deep space frequencies, it means that who is ever receiving this on the other end is somewhere in deep space. But as I said, it's quite a conundrum, because what advanced civilization would even be operating with a radio wave?
Isn't that also one of the deficiencies of things like SETI, which is trying to look for radio waves for evidence of intelligent life in the universe? Are they even using the right frequencies?
Well, here we go again with Uncle Stan Friedman, who calls SETI silly effort to investigate. Of course not. Using radio waves to detect life would be like trying to find a civilization out there that's about our age, and the radio wave emanating into space would take probably a few million years for it to get here. So by that time, they'd be a lot older. So it's absolute nonsense. Most probably, there's only two possible or probable answers to the conundrum. One is that some human-based technology is eavesdropping on the data that's coming from these objects, either through a deal or other means. And the other possibility is that the methodology used from these nanotechnological objects are not radio waves at all, but they're scalar wave technology. Now, I've discussed this again with scientists who are in researching scalar waves, which travel faster than the speed of light. When a scalar wave hits our electromagnetic spectrum, it can give off what's called a harmonic. You know what that is if you're dealing with radio. I mean, you can get one station on another frequency because of a harmonic.
Right, of course.
So if you're using scalar wave technology and it hits our electromagnetic spectrum, we may be interpreting it as a radio wave, but it may not actually be.
Well, let me ask you the larger question here. The big problem about communicating across space, many light years, is the limitation of the speed of light. You send your message, and you're long gone and dead by the time it reaches its destination. So do we have some kind of subspace system that bypasses this? Radio waves through a space warp or something? How would that happen?
Because Gene, you are a thinker. And this subject was addressed in The Strangest of Places by Gene Roddenberry in Star Trek.
Subspace.
Subspace. And subspace merely is a form of communication in which you're using a methodology which is a hell of a lot faster than the speed of light.
But, of course, that's just somebody theorizing in the 1960s over a technology, but mostly as a plot gimmick. I mean, that's what a lot of things were done in a way to save on special effects and having to build spaceships and showing them landing. You had a transporter, not because he believed necessarily in the transporter concept of being able to send people down a few hundred miles to the surface of a planet or from one location to another on a planet, but to cut down on production costs. So subspace, we realized, look, we can't have people communicating from one place to another and wait years or centuries for the messages. We had to come up with a scheme that allows the communication to be instantaneous. But so it was a plot gimmick.
It was a plot gimmick, but strangely enough, some of the plot gimmicks used in Star Trek are now being used today as reality. The communicator that they all used was today's flip phone.
The Motorola StarTAC.
Yeah, right.
Don't know why they're not using wrist phones, though, because we're now talking about an iWatch. But that was Dick Tracy, wasn't it?
Yes, that was Dick Tracy years and years ago. But look at Doc Bones when he went in through the belly button and did some stuff and.
There you go. Hey,
now we got amniocentesis, which we use constantly. So
damn it, I'm a doctor, Jim. We have Dr. Roger Leir joining Gene and Chris. Forgive that. You're in
the Paracast.
America's #1 source for independent talk radio for over a decade. We are the GCN Radio Network.
Hi, this is Ted Anderson. If you'd like to listen to GCN programs on the go, I have great news. GCN has created a Droid and iPhone application, and it's free. Just as easy as going to GCNlive.com, click on the banner, and download. Before you know it, you'll be listening to your favorite hard-hitting GCN shows, live or on demand, right on your Droid or iPhone, 24/7 and on the go. So download the Droid and iPhone app free by clicking on the banner at GCNlive.com. Thanks again for listening to GCNlive.com. Again, that's GCNlive.com. Hi, this is Ted Anderson. Have you ever wondered why banks, stockbrokers, investment advisors won't talk about gold IRAs? They've been available since 1986, yet the financial industry won't recognize the value of gold for your retirement. Gold has outperformed paper investments, yet no word about IRAs. If you would like to have gold for your retirement, call 800-686-2237. Don't get left behind by rising inflation and low returns. Call 800-686-2237. Secure your future and call 1-800-686-2237.
Digestive health is the key to wellness and elimination of toxins. That bears repeating. Digestive health is the key to wellness and elimination of toxins. And Pro EM1 Daily Probiotic Cleanse is the key to digestive health. Pro EM1 is a powerful liquid probiotic, strong enough to cleanse, gentle enough to use every day. Pro EM1 is dairy, wheat, and soy-free, contains all natural and certified organic ingredients, contains no preservatives or animal products, supports a healthy digestive and immune system, supports weight loss, improves absorption of food nutrients, aids in controlling yeast infections, is never freeze-dried, and uses 3 groups of live, viable, beneficial microbes to cleanse and remove toxins. Order Pro EM1 Daily Probiotic Cleanse at Terraganics.com, spelled TerraGanix.com, Terraganics.com, or call toll-free 866-369-3678. That's 866-369-3678. Pro EM1, the raw probiotic.
Welcome back to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio. And now, here's Gene Steinberg.
We have Dr. Roger Leir joining Gene and Chris on the Paracast. Enough jokes about Bones McCoy and Star Trek, because there'll be a new Star Trek movie coming in May, Star Trek Into Darkness, without Khan. And I won't do that invitation. Dr. Leir, we have some questions from our audience at forum.theparacast.com. I know you've seen some of these questions. We'll try to focus on the alien implant ones this particular occasion, and we'll see where it goes. Chris?
Yeah, but Blabby Boy has been a poster for a couple of years at forum.theparacast.com, and he has quite a number of very, I think, well-thought-out questions. And I want to go ahead and sort of combine one particular group of questions into a single question, and that is, have you seen any real consistency between these implants? And are you also seeing any sort of evolution from, in some sort of sense, from the early 90s when you first started getting into this until the present day?
The answer to the first question is yes. We have 7 or 8, to be exact, that if you laid them all out on surgical sponges, you wouldn't be able to tell one from the other. Now, we do have, let's say we can divide them into several categories. We have those that are metallic, we have those that are non-metallic, and we have one which is totally biological. Now, whether there's an evolutionary event occurring, or whether perhaps one species drives a Ford and another drives a Lexus, I'm not quite so sure. But
good analogy.
Most of the objects that we look at, although the morphology, other than the 8, may look different, we, as I mentioned before, we never looked in the beginning to see if these contain carbon nanostructures, because the scientists themselves were arguing the fact that carbon nanostructures couldn't exist. So if they can't exist in nature, then you can't build one, then, why bother looking? But now we know not only do they don't exist in nature, but we can build them, and we're using them. Japan is working on using them to weave into fiber for clothing, so that you could keep a person warm in the winter and cool in the summer, or a lady can change the pattern on her dress. The space industry is looking at it to build a mile-high tower from the Earth to launch a space vehicle, therefore defeating some of the gravitational effect, and therefore it's a money-saving device. It's
right, a space elevator.
Right, space elevator. It's the strongest substance known to man. It's being used in advanced aircraft design. It responds almost in an organic manner to electrical currents electronically being applied to it. And as I said, we just skipped over the surface of what we find in these objects, but the carbon nanotubes themselves wind up as carbon nanofibers, which, let's say we look at it audience-wise, you take 2 wires and you wind them together. We have a carbon nanofiber, and then when you take these wire pairs and you wind them together, we have something that looks like a cable, so that's a carbon nanostrand. And then we find these ending in what we call orthorhombic sodium chloride crystals. And to make that very clear, all it is a sodium chloride rectangle of various shapes. Now, sodium chloride in nature doesn't come as rectangles. They come in random crystallization. There is no specific crystal form for them. So, as I said, we skipped over something that doesn't include all of what we find either.
Well, another couple of questions that Blabby Boy has to do with how these objects may or may not integrate with the human body. And he says some alleged implants are said to have some sort of form of coating to allow them to live within the host without upsetting the host's natural defenses. Has this remained consistent, or have you noticed any implants that appear to start to integrate directly with the host, like latching onto nerves, bones, or other organic tissue?
both. We find, number one, that there's no inflammatory or rejection reaction to the object, but we have found over half of them have nerve cells that have grown into the organic material that surrounds the object, kind of fusing into it. But that's, again, some advanced technology that we're just looking at. We used to think that, maybe whoever is building these take something of the host, skin or whatever, uses the DNA and then dips the object in the host's own DNA and then implants it. But now that theory looks like it's going out the window, because as the research advances, so does the technological ability to look at these things, and the apparatus also begins to change. For example, the electron microscope with, let's say, using 10,000 kilovolts used to produce an image of maybe 95,000 times magnification. And then as you increase the kilovoltage, you'd get what's called scattering. Now at 20,000 kilovolts, we can look at things 750,000 times magnification. So the equipment does change, and by doing that, we can learn more. But the point being, which I have to mention, is that it appears, again, don't quote me on this because it's not solid fact. When something's a fact, I'll tell you. But it appears that there is what's called a phase in which the inorganic material that the object is made out of becomes organic. In other words, it becomes living tissue, and that is the phase which seems to attract nerve cells, which at one time we thought these devices were using the body's own neuroenergy system, as we do with amputee orthotics. UCLA has done a long project on this. But now we think that the energy that makes these objects tick, so to speak, that may also be broadcast into the object, and the body, being that most of these things are close to the bone, the skeletal structure of our body is being used as an antenna.
I have a fast question here, stupid question.
This is all new stuff, Jim.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, I have a stupid question before we go on. In each case where you've had these implants, first of all, they were discovered after you became aware that person had an abduction experience?
That's correct. We had to set down a strict set of criteria and protocols because, as I said, there are millions of people all over the world who every day are getting foreign objects within their body. So we have to delineate those from those that have had some kind of a UFO sighting. David Jacobs, for example, says that anyone that has a prolonged sighting of a UFO may be an abductee. So they have to not only come to us initially with an X-ray or a CAT scan that shows some kind of an object, but they also have to be somehow tied into the UFO field or abduction program.
I have another dumb question here, which is, what about a control sample of people who have something embedded in their bodies who haven't had or haven't recalled abductions to see what they might have?
Oh, we have thousands of those. I've been in practice now for 50 years. I've removed hair, paper, nail, metal, coral, even a hair can produce a foreign body reaction. But one of the things I did remove once was a piece of metal, and the patient came in, referred to me by an industry here in Southern California, with the two companions who were wearing suits and had some rather intimidating identification, rather. And they stood there doing the whole surgery, and we removed the object, and they said, "Thank you," and took it.
There you go. We have Dr. Roger Leir joining Gene and Chris. You're in
the Paracast.
Don't complain. complain about your cable bill going up and up and up. Do something about it. Grab a pencil and jot down this special number, 1-877-804-MY-TV. The more cable TV rates go up, the better digital satellite TV looks. So, disable the cable and get more of your favorite channels in 100% digital quality for less money. Call 1-877-804-MY-TV right now to sign up for packages starting as low as $19.99 and up to 4 rooms. And there's no equipment to buy. That includes your free HD TV upgrade, your free DVR upgrade, and your free professional installation. And the best part, the pristine digital picture and sound. Call 1-877-804-MY-TV. So, what are you waiting for? Pull out your major credit or debit card. Call 1-877-804-MY-TV. 1-877-804-MY-TV. Disable the cable, cut costs, and get more. Call 1-877-804-MY-TV. 1-877-804-MY-TV.
Hi, this is John O'Toole with Midas Resources Gold and Silver Company. We have all heard of Rand Paul warning of an imminent currency crisis as a result of reckless spending on Capitol Hill and endless wars overseas. But what are we doing to prepare for it? China, India, and numerous other countries are buying up gold and silver by the ton because they know what's really going on. Don't you think it's time you do the same thing before it's too late? Call me, John O'Toole, today at 1-800-686-2237, extension 133, and find out why gold and silver have been the true safe havens for over 5,000 years. That's 1-800-686-2237, extension 133. I'll send you a booklet highlighting 10 reasons why gold and silver are the only way to preserve your purchasing power. Again, that's 1-800-686-2237, extension 133.
Imagine waking one morning only to find your family shivering in the dark because you couldn't afford to pay your electric bill. That's closer than you think. You probably haven't heard about this yet because the liberal media has been suppressing what is fast becoming the most shocking news story of 2012. Obama's secret war on coal that could increase your already high power bill as much as 400% in coming months. As shocking as it sounds, it may well be just a matter of time before the lights start going out across America. But here's some good news. There's an underground video at exposed123.com that thousands of smart patriots have used to end their slavery to the corrupt electricity monopoly. The video at exposed123.com has already been banned by Google, and the liberal media is doing everything in its power to take it down and keep America in the dark. So watch it now at exposed123.com before it's too late. Again, that's exposed123.com.
Time and time again.
You need to come here and help us. We need assistance, please.
Those we should be able to depend on let us down.
Federal and state and local officials saying help is on the way. Well, the folks here in Bell Harbor say, show me.
Don't depend on the government to save you. Take action now so that you're prepared for the next disaster with MyPatriotSupply.com. Get the best prices on storable food, non-GMO seeds, water filtration devices, home canning equipment, survival and self-reliance books, and more at MyPatriotSupply.com. Call 866-229-0927.
We are hurting down here and we need help immediately.
Before it's time to survive, it's time to prepare. MyPatriotSupply.com. MyPatriotSupply.com.
We'd like to hear from you. If you have a comment or question about the Paracast, send it to news@theparacast.com. That's news@theparacast.com. And don't forget to visit our famous Paracast community forums at forum.theparacast.com.
In this part of our discussion with Dr. Roger Leir on the Paracast with Gene and Chris, we've been focusing very heavily on his investigation into so-called alien implants to see what's going on. Now, is there any possibility here at all, and I'm looking at this just as an outside possibility, that where implants are found, it's not aliens who are implanting them, but government agents for some strange purpose, using whatever technology they have under development?
That's a pretty good question. I get that. I get asked that quite often. You're staying away from the from calling a spade, and that's the black budget technology, which they say...
Well, let's just say that's implied, that there is possibly some top-secret technology that would make it possible to build these things. So basically, Uncle Sam or those engaged in black projects, private industry, whatever, they are spying on us. It's not E.T.
All right, let's look at that in particular, and I can assure you that that is not the case. Case in point, a laboratory that shall go unmentioned in Texas became a total black budget laboratories. I was one of the few individuals who was probably the last one in the UFO field that ever got objects into this laboratory. Now they're working on advanced technology. Here we see a situation in which I'm virtually forced out into the hall where scientists are crowded into a room looking through the electron microscope at some of the objects that I brought in. Standing there 15 feet away from me is the director of the laboratory with a hand on each hip and not a smile on his face. These are government employees, and they're being paid by the government. And I'm sure that the lab director is not happy that they're taking time away from their own particular projects to look at something that he didn't think they should be looking at. So here it just goes to show you that black budget scientists, and now I've gotten to know a few of them, are so far away from anything like this that even if they're 100 years advanced, as I said, this one company said, don't show me anything that's 100 years advanced because we probably already have it or know about it. So this is stuff they don't know about. So I don't think that, I think this is a good indication that these are not projects of humankind.
Chris, you want to find some follow-up
questions? I just want to ask a question of my own, and that is, you've looked at, you have 16 objects that you feel are bona fide, and I'm just wondering, what is the motivation to implant people? Is this kind of like earth scientists tracking polar bears or doing some sort of environmental study? What do you think the motivations and the agenda is behind implanting humans with these objects?
Hey, you guys ask good questions. Because if I was sitting in your shoes, that's one of the primary questions I would ask. What's it all about? What's it for? Now, you got to look at the bigger picture in order to try and theorize, and I'll emphasize that, theorize an answer, because if anybody says they had all the answers, then you better put a finger in each ear and run as fast as you can. We don't. There's too much in the
boy,
mix.
You just said that was a truism.
You bet. So look at the general picture of mankind, and how we've been kept in the dark. So you have to go back into, very ancient times and to understand what man might be or where man might have come from. I believe that the abduction process in itself, and I'm sure you'll agree if you've read any of the literature, and I know you're both informed, the individuals who undergo alien abduction, I've been in 42 countries in 7 years. It's not much different in Brazil than it is in Israel or here in the United States. A little bit different stories. But the mainstay, over 90%, involve the taking of ova and sperm. Now, that does not mean that these guys who are doing this are working for the cooking channel and making omelets. Undoubtedly, there's something genetic that's going on. So if you have a genetic manipulation going on, don't you think you'd want to find out what the results of this genetic manipulation is without having to re-abduct somebody 150 times over a period of their young lifetime? So you would do it remotely. Now, based on human logic, and I repeat that again, human logic, how do we know what the logic is of a highly advanced civilization? Could we ever even conceive what their logic is? Could we even communicate with them if they came here?
Well, but that's maybe putting the cart before the horse. We have to first determine there is an advanced race from somewhere else at play, then we can worry about the motives.
Well, you wanted an answer to theoretically what the implants are all about. We know, based on human logic, that if we want to study the hibernation of bears, for example, do we have to tag every bear?
Just a selected sample, but that also goes against what maybe is implied by Dr. David Jacobs, which is that there are millions of people who have been abducted. It seems to me that only a few are necessary to cover the sexual and racial characteristics and maybe certain personality traits.
Not if you want to alter the human race. In order to alter the human race, you have to have a certain number of people which are going to alter their DNA, and then you wait for the progeny to occur. And the way I look at it, and the world situation, if you look at the kids today, and I have never, ever had an argument from any parent or grandparent of a young child that compare them to someone that's 60, 75, or 80 years old. They don't need to go to a TV or go to a book or have anybody tell them certain things. They already know it. The children today are the future of the world, and I think that this is indicative of what's going on a worldwide basis, because if we look at the Middle East, who is it that actually fulminated the revolution in Egypt? It was all people less than 35 years of age using electronic media. That's not the older people. This is a new generation.
Okay, but that doesn't mean we have to assume the new generation is a result of some kind of genetic manipulation, does it?
All right, let's assume that theory is wrong. Then what other factors are going to alter humankind to a better sort of human being than we already have? You name them.
Okay, you're putting the onus on us, right?
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I'm not a genetic expert. I don't play one on TV. I don't pretend to know. I am asking the questions because you're the expert.
Okay, well, I don't consider myself an expert in genetics, but I do consider myself a thinking human being with an education and ancient knowledge and, theorizing where man came from in the first place. So looking at it in this way, you can say, okay, it's environmental. It's evolutionary. It's an evolutionary trend. Evolution doesn't occur in a period of 40, 50, 60 years, not even so-called fast evolution.
Yeah, it's a long process.
We'll continue this process. If you want to get in touch with us, contact us on Twitter, where we're known as The Paracast. We have Dr. Roger Leir joining Gene and Chris. You're in The Paracast.
Are you tired of searching for great talk radio?
Something more important.
Search no more. We are the GCN Radio Network.
Hey neighbors, meetings are an essential part of any business. Making presentations to clients, collaborating with your colleagues. Well, make them as simple as possible to run and organize. Use GoToMeeting by Citrix, the easiest, most reliable online meeting service. With GoToMeeting, you can schedule an online meeting in seconds. Attendees can join with just a click from anywhere. Meeting materials are viewed on everyone's screen, making collaboration seamless. GoToMeeting is so easy to use for you and everyone joining your meeting. Plus, with GoToMeeting, hold as many meetings as you can for one flat rate. You have phone conferencing and voice over IP are included. My listeners can try GoToMeeting free for 30 days, a month of unlimited online meetings free. Visit GoToMeeting.com, click on the Try It Free button, and enter the promo code PODCAST. That's GoToMeeting.com, promo code PODCAST.
You've heard about our MRE smorgasbord. Now, Long Life Food Depot introduces the most unique, safe, and longest-lasting way to stash emergency food, the Eat Pod. Most survival food products recommend an ideal storage environment, including low temps, low moisture, and low oxygen. If you're storing in a basement, too humid, garages and attics, too hot. But the waterproof, double-walled, high-density polyethylene patent-pending Eat Pod is a unique roll-away food bunker that creates the perfect conditions conditions, can be buried up to 30 feet, and can keep your survival food supply safe, secure, dry, and virtually undetectable for 25 years or more. Get full details on the Eat Pod at eatpod.com, spelled EATPOD.com, or call 800-601-2833. That's 800-601-2833. The Eat Pod from Long Life Food Depot. Since 1983, sending real food to your real future.
We've lived in this neighborhood for years. We have an alarm system, and all of our doors have deadbolts. They kicked in our door, and we're in and out of our house in about 5 minutes. The police arrived in about 20 minutes, but they were long gone with our TV, jewelry, and my guns. I kept thinking, what if my family had been home? The police officer said that more than 85% of break-ins are through a door, and that deadbolts alone don't stop intruders. The officer told me to go to EasyArmor.net if we wanted something that would actually stop an intruder. Easy Armor reinforces all of the weak points on your doors and is guaranteed to prevent kick-ins. I was surprised at how little Easy Armor costs, and I installed Easy Armor in about 30 minutes.
Visit EasyArmor.net. That's the letters EasyArmor.net. Or call 888-58-ARMOR. That's 888-582-7667. EasyArmor.net. Ultimate door security made easy.
Hello?
Congratulations.
For what?
For losing all that weight. How'd you do it so fast?
ASAP.
ASAP what? What's that mean?
Are you ready to get as skinny as possible, as soon as possible, as simple as possible, and as sexy as possible?
I'm listening.
Then get with the ASAP program. It's real and it works. No smooth talk, no slick advertising, and no exaggerated claims of success.
I've got to know more.
Welcome to ASAP, as slim as possible. Whether you have 10, 20, or 50 pounds to lose, ASAP is your weight loss answer. ASAP targets the abnormal fat reserves and makes them available to be burned as fuel and contains no caffeine or hormones. Order ASAP at wholesale prices or join the team to share the business with others. Visit GCNteam.com or call 877-878-4203. GCNteam.com or call 877-878-4203. Lose weight and look great with ASAP, as slim as possible.
Hi, my name is Richard Dolan. You're listening to the Paracast.
Genetic manipulation? What are we talking about here? We have Dr. Roger Leir talking alien implants, possible alien implants, and their implications with Gene and Chris on the Paracast. Dr. Leir, you had started a response to what Chris had said. Would you continue?
Okay, I think we were looking at the possibilities of change in human beings and the possible reasons that they could occur.
Before you continue, Dr. Leir, the thing that springs to my mind is that if this is a motivation and possibly, an agenda, then shouldn't we be talking about millions of people, or at least hundreds of thousands of people that are being manipulated somehow?
Yes, indeed.
Because it's just a small sampling of the human genetic pool, as it were. It would take a long time to have that factor into any sort of long-term changes, but you have to have a mass scale of manipulation to really enact some changes that are predictable, I would think.
You're absolutely correct. Now, the Roper poll, which I consider was a conservative poll done in 93 and 96, said that there was approximately 2 to 3% of the American population that was being abducted. And I consider it a conservative poll because there was a lot of people who wouldn't answer the questions. Now, you multiply this on a worldwide basis, and we're talking about millions and millions of people. If we look at a laboratory study, for example, with rats or any fast-breeding animal, and want to create genetic changes, which we can do, how many of them do we have to do before they interplay with each other and produce a total change in the species? Well, it's really not that staggering a figure. Now, I've done studies on growth factors in children over a period of 40 years, and they've been accelerated from 16 to 86%. Now, I'm not talking about IQs. I'm talking about the things like when a child can raise its head, when they can stand up in a crib, when they get their first simple speech, complex speech, stair climbing, and so on. These are all factors.
Well, you're talking about accelerated behavior and some sort of modification of an acceleration of human behavior.
It's not only acceleration of human behavior, but it's also an acceleration of the mental processes of the human being. There are kids today who can do psychometry, who are telepathic. Unfortunately, they're put upon by their parents so that they don't do these things because they find them embarrassing. But there are a greater number of people that can do this. Now, I'll give you another example that's a little closer to home. A couple of years ago, I was in Philadelphia at the Science Museum, and they had a Leonardo da Vinci display in which the museum actually spent the money to build out of wood the mechanical devices that were designed by Leonardo da Vinci. In another room, there was about 24 pedestal top computers so that a child between, let's say, 7 and 10 years old could reach the top of it. Their parents were undoubtedly young, in the 30s, certainly not over 40. What these kids were doing was taking the screens that were on the top of the computers and throwing them up on virtual screens like you see in Hawaii Five-0 or some of the other television programs. This is reality. This is not, entertainment fiction. These computers exist, and they got them right there in Philadelphia in the museum. Well, the kids were building these objects that were put together by the museum. And the parents were standing there scratching their head without the slightest bit of understanding of what the kids were doing. Now, is this the same human as humans that were 35 years old? I don't think so. I'm an old guy, but I have trouble with my simplified cell phone. I don't know what to do with it. I give it to my 22-year-old daughter. And if she can't figure it out, she gives it to my 9-year-old granddaughter.
You have to factor in environmental factors as well. I mean, as we progress and reality becomes more and more complex and high tech, obviously you're going to see an acceleration of young people, even kids as young as 3 and 4 operating computers. And I think a lot of this has to do with environmental factors. I don't think you necessarily have to blame some sort of genetic manipulation on.
Okay, well, maybe you can produce the environmental factors that are producing this kind of effect. You could give me an example.
But you're asking questions of the wrong people here. We're not scientists. We're simply trying to speculate on different really possibilities.
If what you're saying is correct, Dr. Leir, and you're exclusively looking at individuals who have some sort of conscious recollection of some sort of interaction with something possibly off planet, let's say. Why do people recall, and what is the operative mechanism that allows them to recall and find these implants? Spooky Mulder asks a series of very interesting questions here. He says, why do people recall and find these implants? Do the aliens every now and then forget to bring along a board-certified anesthesiologist? And wouldn't the whole idea of implant be performing a procedure on someone that was unconscious at the time and they wouldn't recall these acts that were being performed on them?
Well, isn't it a little presumptive to assume that the person was unconscious in the first place?
Well, there's got to be some sort of screen memory that's implanted, or some sort of hypnotic post-hypnotic suggestion.
Yes, I think that any advanced civilization that has the ability to read your mind, and certainly, I've had that personal experience. So you're talking to somebody that's undergone that, including my wife and my daughter, and an experience that we had in Laughlin some years ago. I wrote about it in a book called Chop Liver. But they have a way of getting into your head. And if they want to produce an anesthesia, they merely suggest an anesthesia. Now, as far as recall is concerned, most abductees don't really have much of a deep recall. They have things that come back that are sort of spotty, little recollections of things. Some wind up with fears and phobias for which they have no explanation. until somebody suggests that, maybe they might help undergoing regressive hypnotherapy, or they may wind up in a mental institution or become an alcoholic or a drug addict because they can't get along with the situation as it is. So they don't all have complete memories. There's not one single case that I've ever come across that had a complete memory of the total recall of the abductive process. They have slight memories. Some have more than others. When we started this investigation, we didn't allow anyone as a surgical candidate to ever have undergone regressive hypnosis because we didn't want the criticism. Yeah, but now that's changed. After doing, 16 cases, and they have, recalls and slight bits of memory, and I have to qualify this, and they want to know more. A lot of people don't want to know more because they might be more upset if they knew than if they didn't. But if they want to know more, then we'll supply them with a qualified hypnotherapist such as Yvonne Smith in the Western United States here in California, who's a student of Bud Hopkins, that will do the regressions. But there is no, unqualified. I've never seen, I've looked at thousands of cases all over the world. I've read Bud Hopkins' literature, David Jacobs, John Max, and so on. There are no cases in which somebody has total recall of an abduction event.
Interesting. I'm looking here at Spooky Mulder's questions, and he's kind of playing a little devil's advocate here. But one of his questions is while conceding that theoretically there could be tens of thousands of people walking around, possibly more, unaware that they have implants, why would the doctor have any patients at all? Meaning you. Wouldn't a race as advanced as these guys have perfected the art of unobtrusive or unintrusive implantation? Would the ones that come to light be considered botched procedures? What is the average way? Is there some sort of, out of the 16 cases that you've selected, how are these objects discovered by the individual? Is it by happenstance? Do they feel uncomfortable? Do they have a memory of it being implanted? Is there any sort of consistency in how these things are discovered?
Let's have your answer on the other side, Dr. Leir.
Okay.
Dr. Roger Leir joining Gene and Chris. You're in the Paracast.
The GCN Radio Network, providing the world with hard-hitting talk radio. GCN. Great talk radio starts here.
Don't complain about your cable bill going up and up and up. Do something about it. Grab a pencil and jot down this special number, 1-877-804-MY-TV. The more cable TV rates go up, the better digital satellite TV looks. So, disable the cable and get more of your favorite channels in 100% digital quality for less money. Call 1-877-804-MY-TV right now to sign up for packages starting as low as $19.99 and up to 4 rooms. And there's no equipment to buy. That includes your free HD TV upgrade, your free DVR upgrade, and your free professional installation. And the best part, the pristine digital picture and sound. Call 1-877-804-MY-TV. So, what are you waiting for? Pull out your major credit or debit card. Call 1-877-804-MY-TV. 1-877-804-MY-TV. Disable the cable, cut costs, and get more. Call 1-877-804-MY-TV. 1-877-804-MY-TV.
What's safer and cheaper than prescription drugs?
Glad you asked. The answer is Renovation Teas. Herbal remedies are much safer and much cheaper than prescription drugs. Taste great, and most importantly, herbal teas are effective and non-addictive. Renovation Tea is especially unique, and here's why. We spent years researching herbs and their beneficial properties. Renovation Teas uses only 100% organic, fair trade herbs. Our teas are blended towards specific ailments and health conditions, such as diabetes, blood pressure, anxiety, libido, detox, and much more. All Renovation Teas are formulated and hand-filled in Arkansas. Take care of yourself naturally, the way Mother Nature intended. Order Renovation Teas at renovationtea.com or call 870-784-3121. That's 870-784-3121. Renovation Teas. Renovate your health one bag at a time.
The American people think they live in a constitutional republic, land of the free, home of the brave. Right.
Just try those lines on the judge when you get a ticket or have to deal with a big bad IRS.
Instead, use escapeharassment.com. Since 1972, our volunteer group of researchers and educators have successfully taught how to escape tickets by law, and it works. Escape Harassment has 3 different steps to follow, depending on where you are in the ticket process. Learn how to escape tickets, IRS, or court proceedings before you go to court. For free, 3-minute pre-recorded information and FAQs, call this toll-free number, 1-877-457-9009. That's 877-457-9009. Or go to escapeharassment.com and see our money-back guarantee. That's escapeharassment.com. Remember, escape harassment works.
Weakened by GMOs, stressed out about money, and blasted by the electric environment. Hi, I'm Pastor Jenny, and that was the state I was in back in 2010. Then I learned about RNA drops. I learned that 97% of my DNA that scientists have called junk is actually packed with millions of gene switches that play a critical role in controlling how my cells, organs, and other tissues behave. I learned I don't have to put up with disease, decay, or decline like I'd been conditioned to believe. I began taking RNA drops, a 100% natural formula designed to turn on those switches and provide me with amazing health and joy. Learn more about RNA drops and order a free sample today. Visit rnafreesample.com. That's rnafreesample.com, or call toll-free 888-577-3703. Pay only shipping and handling for a free 30-day supply of RNA drops. Get the information you need and the health you want at rnafreesample.com.
Hi, this is nuclear physicist lecturer Stanton Friedman. You are listening to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio.
We had one question here in our previous segment from one of our listeners, and Dr. Roger Leir, our guest this week, will have the answer. Dr. Leir.
Yes, sir.
Is there any consistency on how these implants are discovered by the individuals? Is it just some object that's seen in an X-ray? Is it all by accident and by happenstance? Or is there some sort of recall that the person has that gives them the idea that perhaps there's something there that should be investigated? Is there any consistency with these cases?
Let me answer that in 2 ways, because the question from the caller had 2 parts to it. So, number one, yes, all of the above. Now, as a medical practitioner, no matter what I do, I still have to conform to, the ethics and the laws of the state of which I practice. So if someone came in and said, I have a tack, under my skin in the big toe, and I found it on an X-ray, and I asked them, do you have any discomfort? And they said no. And I would ask them, well, do you know how you got it? And yes, I stepped on a tack. Does it bother you in any way? And they said no. And I said, well, does it bother you psychologically? And they said no. Then it would not behoove me as an ethical practitioner to even suggest that I take it out. So that's one aspect of it. The other aspect is that all these individuals have either some discomfort in the area, whether it be psychological or physiological, and some of them do have actual memories or portions of memories where they were taken and a device was used to insert something, and sometimes they have pain, or they may wake up the following morning and see blood on the bed sheets, not know where they come from. Now, we haven't mentioned the fact that in any of these cases there's a scar or visible portal of entry. There isn't. So purely from a medical standpoint, you basically can't get something.
Just in and of itself.
Yeah.
Right. I think there's an issue, though, that was raised and implicit in the previous question from our listener, and that is here we're talking about a highly advanced race that appears to be using somewhat low-tech means to make these implants. You'd think if they have that technology, they could do it in a way that we couldn't detect it, and people wouldn't remember it.
Well, let's put it this way. In dealing with advanced beings, are they the ultimate in perfection? And if you look at as many abduction cases as I have, you'll see that the answer is no. They may be advanced, but there is no ultimate perfection in the things that they do. Case in point, 2 little children were abducted from a doughboy pool in the state of Texas. They disappeared, and the parents were extremely concerned, called the police, the neighbors. They did a neighborhood search and found the 2 young boys drowned in a full-size pool next door. There was no way. There was a 6-foot fence, so there was no way these kids got over the fence. We have many, many cases in which bed clothing, for example, between a husband and wife inadvertently gets switched. The husband winds up wearing the nightgown, and the wife winds up with pajamas.
It sounds like they have a pretty progressive sexual relationship.
The aliens or the couple?
I'll let you answer that one.
Another case.
Sorry, I couldn't resist. That was
okay.
The devil made him do it. It's Richard Shaver's Deros sending him their telegrays and telling him what to do.
Yeah, I wish they would have a better, closer relationship with him. So
the role playing is okay. I mean, it's all right.
Yeah, another case I want to mention before I get off this track was an individual who was coming out of her house. She had 4 steps leading to the backyard. She was removed from one of the steps in the process of stepping down. They returned her in the opposite direction. Well, as far as she was concerned, she was stepping down. This is not funny, so I don't know why I'm laughing. But she fell and broke her ankle and had a rather dim view of not only the abduction process, but the individuals that did it. So they're not perfect. And as far as the mechanism is concerned, looking at these as primitive mechanisms, the person asking that or proposing that doesn't really know what's inside these objects. These are manufactured, highly technical devices based on the atomic level. In fact, we found an aperture in the metal just recently, which is 1 atom wide, yet we couldn't see the bottom of the aperture.
No, I think the point raised here was not that the implants themselves were primitive, but the techniques in which they were placed was primitive. And I still think an advanced race would have a way, number one, of implanting them without causing serious injury or hurt. I mean, we've got an RFD chip in our pet dog. And I assure you, when it was implanted, the dog was not very aware of it.
Yeah, you give them a shot, and they put the little thing in. But there's no cases in which there's imperfection in the implantation. As I said, there's no scar. So how would you know you got anything in there?
Well, certainly the memory of the experiences. If all you want to do is take samples, and all you want to do is make genetic manipulation or just use RFD chips of some sort to monitor them, that could be done in a way that wouldn't be apparent to the victim or the subject.
Human nature is human nature, and Gene, you know that we are not all the same. You know, we have a wide variety of individual thought processes, some being more acute than others. Some have better memories. You know, we have folks that have natural photographic memories, so their memories are different. Now, if you're going to, let's say you were the doer. You know, sometimes you have problems because it was mentioned before that you have to use sometimes screen memories in order to obliterate the process. And they do. They do that. But as far as doing this in mass, you know, there is no guarantee that either the result or the process is going to be the same in every human. And,
law of averages. Something's going to mess up somewhere, somehow.
Sure, that's what I'm saying. So just because they may be an advanced race, you know, it takes a certain number of time to abduct a certain number of human individuals and cause change. And again, we don't have the time, but I could take you back to the biblical literature where this could have been the case. And there, you know, there's no timeline in all the ancient literature. It doesn't say whether it's 1 day, 1 hour, or 1 minute, or 1,000 years. But what it appears that's being done is that they're trying to do this as rapidly as possible. Now, I don't think we're dealing with a bunch of altruists here. I think the stuff that we're doing as human beings, although it does have an effect here, what we do, I think it has a reverberation effect elsewhere. So therefore, the human race itself may be becoming quite dangerous to the solar system or the universe.
Yeah, not to mention ourselves.
And not to mention ourselves, exactly.
I told you not to mention ourselves.
Well, do you notice any consistency in actual placement? And have you been able to determine possible usage or end usage based on where the actual implant is found?
It looks like, and looking for, several years ago I couldn't have answered this, but I can answer it now. Most of these objects are located in a place where they're fairly superficial and near a bone. We have never found one in the abdominal cavity, in the thorax, or within the confines of the cranium. We've had many, 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 many abductee reports of objects being put in through the nose. But yet I've never been able to hold one in my hand because in mostly all the instances they've been expelled either through a bloody nose or mucus discharge, and the client
you're assuming that you
throws
don't know
them away.
You don't
no, we don't know. All we hear is the stories and some very specific how this instrument is used to place it up through the nose, and they hear a cracking sound, and etc. But when I was in Italy several years ago, I attended a lecture by some neurophysiologists who were experimenting around on our level with behavior of violent prisoners, and they actually manufactured a chip that could be placed at the base of the brain and then controlled externally and reduce their violent behavior to something that was much more mediated.
Shades of Delgado.
I'll tell you what, before we mediate this, we have something else to mediate. We have Dr. Roger Leir joining Gene and Chris. You're in the Paracast.
America's #1 source for independent talk radio for over a decade. We are the GCN Radio Network.
Hi, this is Ted Anderson. If you'd like to listen to GCN programs on the go, I have great news. GCN has created a Droid and iPhone application, and it's free. Just as easy as going to GCNlive.com, click on the banner, and download. Before you know it, you'll be listening to your favorite hard-hitting GCN shows, live or on demand, right on your Droid or iPhone, 24/7 and on the go. So download the Droid and iPhone app free by clicking on the banner at GCNlive.com. Thanks again for listening to GCNlive.com. Again, that's GCNlive.com. We the people grow cotton, weave fabric, engrave ink, embed strips and fibers to protect from counterfeit, then carting to a private bank, having it lent back at interest, forcing taxes to service debt. This capitalism, or was Jefferson correct when stating a central bank issuing the public currency is a greater menace to the liberties of the people than a standing army? Ted Anderson, I'm placing a free silver dollar in a book that explains our monetary system. Call for your copy, 800-686-2237. It's time to understand the system. Call 800-686-2237. That's 800-686-2237.
Do you suffer from low-functioning adrenal or thyroid gland? Did you know that mercury from your dental fillings comes off your teeth both as a vapor and as metal particles into your body? Wherever mercury deposits in your body, it stops cells from functioning normally. Animal studies show that mercury causes kidney function to drop by 60%. Mercury deposited into your adrenals or thyroid will cause a corresponding drop in function. The #1 method by which your body detoxifies itself of mercury is glutathione. The #1 superfood that helps turn on all 75 trillion cells of your body to produce glutathione is non-denatured whey protein from grass-fed cows. After investigating most high-end whey proteins on the market, only one is the most non-denatured, the most active, the most complete, and in our opinion, the most powerful in what nature originally put into the fresh raw whey. It is One World Whey. Call 888-988-3325. That's 888-988-3325. Or visit oneworldwhey.com. That's oneworldwhey.com.
Welcome back to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio. And now, here's Gene Steinberg.
Exploring the strange phenomenon of alien implants with Dr. Roger Leir, with Gene and Chris on the Paracast. I guess to some degree, if the implants themselves didn't possibly represent a really advanced technology, I would wonder if to some extent governments were doing this to keep tabs on their people.
Well,
the low-tech fashion in which they're administered might be one reason.
I don't see what you're calling low technique. Technique to me is advanced technology. If a being can disassociate your skin, subcutaneous tissue, muscle, and periosteum and place a foreign object within your body and then have it heal where there's no sign of a defect.
No rejection, no infection.
No infection and no rejection and no inflammatory reaction.
But it is visible if you know where to look.
No, it wouldn't be visible unless you use some artificial means.
Okay, but obviously you are recovering some, so therefore, in some cases, well, I guess if you're doing this en masse and you're doing, a couple 100,000 at a time, I guess some will just not take. That's the point you're making.
Yes, that's correct. As I said, they are far from, perfection. These are not gods.
Or they may not care. It may be a matter of they consider us, low-grade beings, primitive beings, and therefore why should we care how they react to what we do? We'll just do it the expedient way.
I'm in agreement with the second part, that I don't think they consider us low-grade beings, but certainly lesser, younger beings. Now, if we were going to do the same thing, the analogy has been used many times. If you grab a fish, let's say a coelacanth, which is kind of rare, and you decide you want to know the habits of the coelacanth, and you bring them out of the water, are you going to explain to the coelacanth, I'm putting this little probe on the back of you so I can track you, from Africa to India to, some ocean and see how you breed and so on? I don't think so, because we consider the fish, a lower form being.
We would have a conference with them, go to the Fish Council and say, can we do this, sir?
Yes. We go to the Galactic Fish Council and make a proposal that we go to this planet and do everything to their fish.
Okay, any theories about the end game? So, for example, why would they be doing this? Just to see what we're doing? Do you really believe it's genetic manipulation?
Yes, I was going to suggest before when we were on the subject of the theoretical motives, let's say, that are logical. You get down to only two possibilities. Now, if you're a devout theist, then you're well within your realm to say this is an act of God, and no one can argue with you.
That is, of course, if you assume that God doesn't mind inflicting pain and discomfort on humans.
Well, for every religious rite, there is always a reason that if God is punishing you one day, he's teaching you a lesson so you'll be a better person the next day.
So if we're abducted or we think we're being abducted and someone gets in there and does genetic manipulation or takes samples from our reproductive organs, we're just, got to suck it up because it's to our benefit.
Trust is a fragile thing, Gene.
Yeah,
well, that breaks a lot of trust, I'll tell you.
You hear that from a very large number of individuals that have said, oh, yes, abduction is a wonderful thing because, my soul made a deal before I was born.
So your soul made a deal that you're going to be abducted. Okay.
Sedona. It sounds like Dr. Leir has spent some time in my neck of the woods here, Sedona.
Well, I have been to Sedona. In fact, I had quite an experience there sitting on one of those vortexes. I got a thought in my mind of an individual who I hadn't seen in a number of years. She just, popped into my mind, and I just, visualized her. And I got home, and several days later, I got a telephone call from this various individual, and she said, I haven't talked to you in about 5 years, but suddenly I had, you came into my mind, and so I had to give you a call And I said, well, when did this happen? Well, strangely enough, she's a hiker, and she was sitting up on the top of a mountain in the Sierras. And I said, well, when did this happen? And it was the same day at the same time. So
I've heard a number of stories like that from around here. It's a pretty interesting place, believe me.
Yeah, that it definitely is.
Well, this is all really a fascinating subject, and I'm really intrigued by the scientific results that you were referring to earlier on in the episode here. Now, have you decided or made any attempts to go to other labs and do like a double-blind study where you can replicate the kinds of analytical results? This sounds like you could almost do a scientific paper if you were able to replicate the same analytical results.
We have, and we've been trying to get a peer-reviewed scientific paper published now for about 4 or 5 years. We've had something into the SSE, and they make excuses. They don't say yes, they don't say no, but they don't publish. I'm working with another scientific journal in a foreign country now in collaboration with a tenured professor who is doing something different but along the same lines. We're trying to get a joint article written in a foreign journal. Also, you may not know this, but I found out 6 months ago that I am the subject of an OSTP report in the White House. Are you familiar with the OSTP?
No, I'm not. Why don't you explain that?
It's a White House organization, which is the Office of Science and Technology Policy. And this was written when President Obama was trying to get money for his health care bill, in which he wanted a public option. Someone had heard me talk at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C., and they happened to be on the OSTP committee and wrote a white paper on my work and presented it to the president. Now, I have a copy of that. The essence of the article was also, I just recently found out, redone in the Huffington Post and the Examiner. So the Huffington Post now, within the next 2 weeks, is coming out with a new article. And what was going on was that the president was being chided because he was offered 2 possibilities. One, that the work we were doing shows that there is extraterrestrial technology that if money was poured into it with research, it could wind up saving the medical care program millions and millions and millions of dollars for benefits for mankind. And the other suggestion was that if Dr. Leir is wrong, and this is some secret technology that has not been exposed to the public, the medical benefits should also be released for the benefit of the public and the savings of money. So it was quite a paper. But the new article that will be coming out in the Huffington Post will cover all this. So stay tuned, folks.
Well, watch for it. In general, what's the skeptical viewpoint of what you have to say about the implants? What do they say in response to?
I've really, I've been with them all, from Smiley to the rest of them. Unfortunately, one of them passed away, but I had 2 encounters with the American Skeptical Society. One was a television show I did with Kevin Nealon, who was a marvelous comedian, an on-the-spot comedian. But we had a round-table discussion. He was interested in this subject. Naturally, he made lots of jokes. But sitting next to me was a representative of the California division of the American Skeptical Society. She was relatively new, and she had a briefcase, and she sat down next to me and said, "What's your claim to fame?" And I said, well, I guess you're talking about why I'm here, and that has to do with the implantation of objects in the bodies of alien abductees. Oh, implants, yes.
Yes, we got to do the break now. Then you can finish that remark about the round table with the skeptics. Dr. Roger Leir joining Gene and Chris. You're in
the Paracast.
Hey neighbors, meetings are an essential part of any business. You know, making presentations to clients, collaborating with your colleagues. Well, make them as simple as possible to run and organize. Use GoToMeeting by Citrix, the easiest, most reliable online meeting service. With GoToMeeting, you can schedule an online meeting in seconds. Attendees can join with just a click from anywhere. Meeting materials are viewed on everyone's screen, making collaboration seamless. GoToMeeting is so easy to use for you and everyone joining your meeting. Plus, with GoToMeeting, hold as many meetings as you can for one flat rate. You have phone conferencing and voice over IP are included. You know, my listeners can try GoToMeeting free for 30 days, a month of unlimited online meetings free. Visit GoToMeeting.com, click on the Try It Free button, and enter the promo code PODCAST. That's GoToMeeting.com, promo code PODCAST.
Dwayne Daly from Midas Resources, March 29th, 2013. Gold open at $15.99.50. A 1-ounce gold coin can be purchased for $16.39.65. A half ounce for $8.19.83, or a quarter ounce for $409.91. That's $16.39.65, $8.19.83, and $409.91.
Hi, this is Ted Anderson. Have you ever wondered why banks, stockbrokers, investment advisors won't talk about gold IRAs? Wait a sec. Gold and silver is going up while Congress is trying to settle on the next debt increase. And there's no end to this madness. That old 401k and IRA can be converted into physical gold without tax consequences. I explained this in my book, 10 Reasons to Buy Gold. Don't let time slip away. Call for your free copy today, 800-686-2237. Get away from that Washington spin and get honest answers about gold. 800-686-2237. The book is free, 800-686-2237.
Are you still a traditional smoker? Now experience a new lifestyle and try vaping with e-cigarettes by LeSig. Imagine no ashes, stains, nasty smell, or coughing and hacking. With LeSig e-cigarettes' revolutionary microelectronic technology, rechargeable battery, and unique replaceable cartridge, you'll get all the benefits and satisfaction of smoking without the hazards. Choose your taste from a wide variety of our new American-made vape-free e-liquids at LeSig.com. And LeSig smokes the competition by serving thousands of worldwide customers with real people customer service, fast, free, same-day shipping, and a 30-day warranty and satisfaction guarantee. So are you ready for a new vaping lifestyle? Then call 870-518-4307. That's 870-518-4307. Or visit LeSig.com, spelled LECIG.com. LeSig e-cigarettes for today's modern smoker.
Digestive health is the key to wellness and elimination of toxins. That bears repeating. Digestive health is the key to wellness and elimination of toxins. And Pro EM1 Daily Probiotic Cleanse is the key to digestive health. Pro EM1 is a powerful liquid probiotic, strong enough to cleanse, gentle enough to use every day. Pro EM1 is dairy, wheat, and soy free, contains all natural and certified organic ingredients, contains no preservatives or animal products, supports a healthy digestive and immune system, supports weight loss, improves absorption of food nutrients, aids in controlling yeast infections, is never freeze-dried, and uses 3 groups of live, viable, beneficial microbes to cleanse and remove toxins. Order Pro EM1 Daily Probiotic Cleanse at Terraganics.com, spelled Terraganix.com, Terraganics.com, or call toll-free 866-369-3678. That's 866-369-3678. Pro EM1, the raw probiotic.
We'd like to hear from you. If you have a comment or question about the Paracast, send it to news@theparacast.com. That's news@theparacast.com. And don't forget to visit our famous Paracast community forums at forum.theparacast.com.
This is one of our most fascinating episodes, exploring some unusual, very frightening things that have happened to people with these so-called implants and these experiences. So you're on this round table, Dr. Roger Leir, with these skeptics, and of course you mention what you're doing and they laugh. But what is their argument against what you have to say and what you have to prove?
So anyway, this rather good-looking blonde from the Skeptical Society reaches into her briefcase and she pulls out this rather thick black binder.
And boy. Is that like the binders filled with women that Mitt Romney was displaying during the presidential campaign?
Those are blinders, not binders. A regular old, 3-ring, very thick black binder. And so she pulls this thing out, and since I'm sitting quite close to her, I'm looking over her shoulder.
I bet you are.
She opens it up to the table of contents, and then with her finger runs down alphabetically until she gets to the subject of implants.
Right, and gets her boilerplated response out.
Right.
Okay, before I answer this question, I got to look at my script. Hold on just a minute. So what was her response?
So I said to her, you seem to have something there on every subject in the paranormal. And she says, oh, yes, we do. Well, she was very friendly, and she was new. She even invited me to their office on Wilshire Boulevard. But unfortunately, when I actually called her, and I was going to go over there, she had already been moved out of state someplace else, so never got the opportunity. My other experience with them was I gave a lecture to the Marina Del Rey Yacht Club out here in Marina Del Rey. It was arranged by Bill Burns from, the History Channel UFO magazine. And I was about 3/4 of the way through my presentation when a fellow raised his hand, and I acknowledged him, and he says, have you ever given any of this material to the American Skeptical Society? And I said,
I like the way you say that. You have a career in show business if you do those impressions, I'll tell you.
And I said, no. And he said, well, why not? And I said, because you guys are, you guys are all psychics. And he just blew his every blood and stack. Psychic? How can you accuse me of us of being psychics? We don't believe in psychics, and et cetera, et cetera. And he was yelling and screaming at me. And I said, well, I don't know what else to say. I said, because you seem to know everything that's going on, but you never look at any of the damn data. And with that, the crowd started roaring, and he turned red and got up and left. So that was my two experiences. When the poor fellow, I've forgotten his name, that passed away, the real famous psychic that attacked everybody, what was his name?
Psychic or Phil Klass?
Yeah, Phil Klass. Yeah, Phil Klass.
He attacked the psychics, yes.
Yeah, he attacked psychics and everything else. But anyway, I had many, many occasions where we did press conferences with them as part of the group and so on. And he was sitting in the front row, and he went and asked all the speakers questions, but never asked me anything. And we did that several times. Finally, one day, I just saw him having lunch, and I kind of felt sorry for him because he was older and he was in poor health, and he knew. So I said, Phil, can I have a cup of coffee with you? He said, sure. I said, well, how are you feeling? And we had a discussion about his health, but he never, one single time, asked me a question about the work that I was doing.
Well, that's interesting, because, boy, he usually he would jump all over pretty much anyone or anything in the field. Yeah, that's very interesting. Well, you've been involved, Dr. Leir, in quite a number of case investigations, and I recall editing a very intriguing interview that you did along with a guy that had a pair of sunglasses and a bandana and a hat pulled down over his head concerning a particular case. I believe it was in California where, strange fluorescent material was left behind on a boat. And I believe this person was actually one of your material scientists, wasn't he? Or somebody who was doing some of your analytical work, if I recall?
Well, he was somebody that happened to be an abductee who came to me under false pretenses, and I should have thrown his butt out of the office, but I'm glad I didn't. He came in as a foot patient and said that he thought he had a foreign object in the toe and was having a lot of pain. So I didn't see any evidence of any marks or anything, and I said, well, what makes you think you have a foreign object in your toe? And he said, well, I must have stepped on something because I woke up the following morning and there was some blood on my blood sheets and there was blood on the toe. So I said, I palpated the toe with my finger, and when I would touch a certain place, it would wince in pain. So I assumed he was telling the truth. So I said, well, I think we should get an x-ray taken. So I wrote a script, and he went out and got an x-ray taken, brought me back the film, and it showed a metallic foreign body in the toe. And it was at that time he told me, he says, well, I didn't tell you the truth. He says, I looked you up on the internet. I know who you are, and I work in a scientific laboratory not too far from here. So I thought I would take a chance and come in, but I didn't want to tell you, the abduction story, because I thought you might think I was crazy and not take me as a patient. So, yeah, he did have some scientific background, but he was masked and his voice was disguised on the show because he didn't want anybody to at work to see who it was, and then for fear of losing his job. Because believe me, whether they're scientists or bankers or politicians, they unfortunately have to pray to higher masters. So I understand that situation. They still got to feed their families.
Well, it was a very intriguing case. I remember listening to some of the details of the case, and there was physical evidence of the actual encounter.
Yeah, it was just
pretty intriguing case.
Replete with physical evidence. We went to his house, brought a team with me. We used a Gauss meter. We found magnetic anomalies not only on the bedroom where he said these events occurred, but we used 3 frequencies of ultraviolet light. We shut all the lights off in the bedroom, and we found 2 4-fingered small fluorescent handprints on the wall right near the area where the magnetism was on the outside of the house. You were right about the boat. He had a fiberglass boat in which the fiberglass hull was magnetic. We had wooden serving spoons for salad serving spoons. They were magnetic. We had plastic counters that were magnetic. We had the kitchen cabinets. All the hinges were unipoles. We could never find the opposing pole. He had an avocado tree in the backyard, and we'd set the Gauss meter on a branch of the avocado tree, and it would read 10 milligauss. Well, that's as far as the scale would go. The soil that surrounded that tree would occasionally break out in spontaneous combustion. We dug down. We looked for gas lines. We did studies on surrounding soil, neighbor soil. We turned it in. The only thing we found that in that particular area there was a high content of bromine.
I'll tell you what, let's get into the rest of this answer in a moment. We have Dr. Roger Leir joining Gene and Chris. You're in
the Paracast.
Are you tired of searching for great talk radio?
Something more important.
Search no more. We are the GCN Radio Network.
Don't complain about your cable bill going up and up and up. Do something about it. Grab a pencil and jot down this special number, 1-877-804-MY-TV. The more cable TV rates go up, the better digital satellite TV looks. So, disable the cable and get more of your favorite channels in 100% digital quality for less money. Call 1-877-804-MY-TV right now to sign up for packages starting as low as $19.99 and up to 4 rooms. And there's no equipment to buy. That includes your free HD TV upgrade, your free DVR upgrade, and your free professional installation. And the best part, the pristine digital picture and sound. Call 1-877-804-MY-TV. So, what are you waiting for? Pull out your major credit or debit card. Call 1-877-804-MY-TV. 1-877-804-MY-TV. Disable the cable, cut costs, and get more. Call 1-877-804-MY-TV. 1-877-804-MY-TV.
What's safer and cheaper than prescription drugs?
Glad you asked. The answer is Renovation Teas. Herbal remedies are much safer and much cheaper than prescription drugs. Taste great, and most importantly, herbal teas are effective and non-addictive. Renovation Tea is especially unique, and here's why. We spent years researching herbs and their beneficial properties. Renovation Teas uses only 100% organic, fair trade herbs. Our teas are blended towards specific ailments and health conditions, such as diabetes, blood pressure, anxiety, libido, detox, and much more. All Renovation Teas are formulated and hand-filled in Arkansas. Take care of yourself naturally, the way Mother Nature intended. Order Renovation Teas at renovationtea.com or call 870-784-3121. That's 870-784-3121. Renovation Teas. Renovate your health one bag at a time.
You've heard about our MRE Smorgasbord. Now, Long Life Food Depot introduces the most unique, safe, and longest-lasting way to stash emergency food, the Eat Pod. Most survival food products recommend an ideal storage environment, including low temps, low moisture, and low oxygen. If you're storing in a basement, too humid, garages and attics, too hot. But the waterproof, double-walled, high-density polyethylene patent-pending Eat Pod is a unique roll-away food bunker that creates the perfect conditions, can be buried up to 30 feet, and can keep your survival food supply safe, secure, dry, and virtually undetectable for 25 years or more. Get full details on the Eat Pod at eatpod.com, spelled EATPOD.com, or call 800-601-2833. That's 800-601-2833. The Eat Pod from Long Life Food Depot. Since 1983, sending real food to your real future.
Hello?
Congratulations.
For what?
For losing all that weight. How'd you do it so fast?
ASAP.
ASAP what? What's that mean?
Are you ready to get as skinny as possible, as soon as possible, as simple as possible, and as sexy as possible?
I'm listening.
Then get with the ASAP program. It's real and it works. No smooth talk, no slick advertising, and no exaggerated claims of success.
I've got to know more.
Welcome to ASAP, as slim as possible. Whether you have 10, 20, or 50 pounds to lose, ASAP is your weight loss answer. ASAP targets the abnormal fat reserves and makes them available to be burned as fuel and contains no caffeine or hormones. Order ASAP at wholesale prices or join the team to share the business with others. Visit GCNteam.com or call 877-878-4203. GCNteam.com or call 877-878-4203. Lose weight and look great with ASAP, as slim as possible.
Hi, this is Don Ecker, and you are tuned into the Paracast. Let me tell you what, you're going to hear stuff here that you probably won't hear anywhere else. Hear that, George Snorri?
Dr. Roger Leir continuing his details of his investigation. We had to do a brief break for business. With Gene and Chris, you're in the Paracast. Dr. Leir, would you continue your answer?
Yeah, so his house was replete with various magnetic anomalies, and as I said, fluorescent findings of four-fingered handprints. His wife had left town one weekend to go visit relatives, and during that time we talked him into removing the piece of wall with handprints on it and replacing it, doing a repair. And he made up some story to her that there was some kind of a leak or something that occurred through the window. But we still have that, and we've done a lot of things since we started this. We're now looking at cases where there is fluorescence that turns up in people's houses or on their bodies, and we're trying to understand what it is that makes this fluorescence. There's a lot of things in nature that are natural that will produce fluorescence, such as cat urine will fluoresce. There's certain microorganisms in the ocean called...
Yeah, and there's solvents and there's cleaners.
Yeah,
and
solvents, cleaners. There's these organisms called dinoflagellates that will emit fluorescence with ultraviolet light. But the frequencies we use, we can alter, go from one frequency to the next. And, some like cat urine will only show up under one frequency. And so we know what frequencies these common, ordinary things show up under. Had another case in which a woman came in and said she was taken aboard a craft in the third trimester of pregnancy, and the child was taken, and a year later she was abducted again, brought back onto the craft, and handed this very strange-looking baby, which repulsed her. But when she was handed the baby, she cradled the baby in her arm like a human baby, and immediately she felt this bond occur, and it was a very loving bond. So she had come into the office with this experience, and we did some tests on her. Again, one was fluorescence, and she had fluorescence in the palm of the left hand, and where she'd held the baby on the forearm of the right hand. And so we took several solvents, and we were able to wash it off. And we told her that was probably contamination that she got maybe from the steering wheel of her car or someplace else. And then she was just getting ready to leave the office, and I don't know, you get strange feelings at times. And I said, just a minute before you leave. And this is about an hour or so had gone by. And I took her back in the room again, and we used the fluorescent light, and it was all back. So the stuff does not wash off with ordinary solvents.
Has it been analyzed at all? Have you been able to figure out exactly what its constituent elements are?
We're working on that now as we speak. We're trying to find out exactly what's in it. We know that there's substances that are not only fluorescents, but when you look at the package of the implants themselves, one of them contained bubbles which appeared to be oil. And we analyzed the oil. It turned out to be oil of lauric acid. And lauric acid is a natural immune defense mechanism. We can instill it into the body, and the body doesn't react to it. So, but it's the only one that we've found that. So maybe they do use lauric acid to coat these things with. We don't know. Don't know enough yet.
No, boric acid. Maybe they're afraid of small crawly insects or something.
Not boric. This is L-A-U.
Lauric acid. I've never even heard of that.
Yeah, it's an acid chemical used in laboratories.
Huh. Well, we have a whole bunch of questions from Rigiwa, who's been a poster at forum.theparacast.com.
And by the way, he lobbied for a long time. Please get Dr. Leir back.
He's one of your big proponents, and he's very interested in your involvement in the Turkish UFO videos between 2007 and 2009, and they've been circulating around for a while. And word is that you were there when one of those events was filmed. Do you want to describe to us what happened there? What do you think of that Turkish wave and the footage that's been produced by those gentlemen on the coastline there? What did you see when you were there? You actually were there when one of the events was filmed.
Well, I was actually there for 2 years.
For 2 years?
It was 2007, 2008, 2009. I was there in 8 and 9. But I actually had privileged enough to look through the camera viewfinder and everything that you saw on the original footage. But the thing is that many people have not seen the original footage. They've seen what was on YouTube. So they have no idea of what the original footage looks like. What we did was we went to a small town on the European coast, and as you know, Turkey is really on two continents. It's on Europe and the Orient, both. So this was on the European coast, looking out over the sea, and we stayed up from 12 midnight to 4 o'clock in the morning filming over the sea. The fellow that owned the camera equipment, his name is Yeltsin, had sort of a photographic knack for feeling the presence of UFOs. So we had a conference there prior to this, and there was about 3,000 people that were at the conference. And that year, 2008 and 2009, I saw so many UFOs that I really had no desire to ever see one again. I mean, it was like watching the traffic on the freeway. Every single news station had their remote truck out at the conference center filming these things all day long. These were daylight sightings. So we decided to go out at night. I think it's called the Sea of Miramar, if I'm not correct. I have this up on my website, and we took it down because the footage that we had didn't show what was supposed to be there. But we're putting it back up again, and it'll be this Sunday night. It'll be on another website. I don't know whether I have the right to say that, tell where it is or not.
Feel free.
Well, it'll be on coast to coast.
Well, we'll tolerate that.
So
within a normal level of toleration or tolerance.
If it's good footage, yeah, why not?
Sure.
Yeah, it's a copy of the original footage, and so as I said, I did look through the viewfinder and the camera, saw the whole thing. Let me describe the situation. The sea was calm. We surveyed it with optical equipment, binoculars and telescopes and so on to see how far out across the sea we could see anything. The water was devoid of ships. There were no oil rigs. There were no background lights. There was nothing to reflect in the water. We also filmed at the time of the sighting. There was a dog that happened to be on the beach that was reacting quite violently, looking out over the water. So undoubtedly the dog could either see this thing or feel it or whatever. But there was a bright full moon. And that's the first thing that we were able to see in the sky. And underneath the moon was a little bright dot. Could have been a star or a planet or anything else. But we decided to allow the camera had a 300 millimeter lens and an electronic doubler. That means that we could go with the mechanical focusing device of the lens and the electronics to 600 millimeter magnification. The camera was on sticks, but there was a breeze blowing, and so it looks like it's a little bit handheld, but it's not. It was on a tripod.
We'll get into the second part of this description as he's describing the setup for these photos. We have Dr. Roger Leir joining Gene and Chris in
the Paracast.
The GCN Radio Network, providing the world with hard-hitting talk radio. GCN. Great talk radio starts here.
Hey neighbors, meetings are an essential part of any business. Making presentations to clients, collaborating with your colleagues. Well, make them as simple as possible to run and organize. Use GoToMeeting by Citrix, the easiest, most reliable online meeting service. With GoToMeeting, you can schedule an online meeting in seconds. Attendees can join with just a click from anywhere. Meeting materials are viewed on everyone's screen, making collaboration seamless. GoToMeeting is so easy to use for you and everyone joining your meeting. Plus, with GoToMeeting, hold as many meetings as you can for one flat rate. You have phone conferencing and voice over IP are included. My listeners can try GoToMeeting free for 30 days, a month of unlimited online meetings free. Visit GoToMeeting.com, click on the Try It Free button, and enter the promo code PODCAST. That's GoToMeeting.com, promo code PODCAST.
Ceramic body armor is rated to stop 6 hits. But what about the 7th? Unlike ceramic or Kevlar, Infidel body armor is proven to take hit after hit, and it just won't quit. Reasonably priced and designed for the smart civilian prepper, Infidel stops hundreds of hits from small arms to high-powered rifles. That means safety and peace of mind. Buy yours at InfidelBodyArmor.com. Spelled INFIDEL bodyarmor.com. Infidel Body Armor just won't quit.
We the people grow cotton, weave fabric, engrave ink, embed strips and fibers to protect from counterfeit, then carting to a private bank, having it lent back at interest, forcing taxes to service debt. This capitalism, or was Jefferson correct when stating a central bank issuing the public currency is a greater menace to the liberties of the people than a standing army? Hi, Ted Anderson. I'm placing a free silver dollar in a book that explains our monetary system. Call for your copy, 800-686-2237. It's time to understand the system. Call 800-686-2237. That's 800-686-2237.
What do you do when your propane runs out and you don't have a large amount of wood for cooking? That's when you need a Grover rocket stove from StockStorage.com. The Grover rocket stove starts easily with any combustible material like junk mail, small twigs, leaves, weeds, or dry sagebrush. Then just add a small amount of kindling wood and you'll be cooking entire meals in minutes. Grover rocket stoves are made right here in the USA and are built to last a lifetime using heavy-duty thick-gauge steel and are painted with high-temp paint to withstand heat. Go to StockStorage.com and see 3 great Grover rocket stoves, stainless steel, heavy-duty, or our original Grover rocket stove for only $135 and get free shipping to the lower 48. For phone orders, call 801-361-6984 or go to StockStorage.com. That's 801-361-6984 or StockStorage.com. The original Grover Rocket Stove Minimal Wood Use Cooking Stoves, available exclusively from StockStorage.com.
Gardeners, here comes another growing season, but don't use last year's soil. Maximize yields in your survival garden with EM1 from Terraganics. EM1 is an organic soil conditioner, fertilizer amendment, and compost accelerant that provides a broad spectrum of beneficial microorganisms, enzymes, trace minerals, vitamins, and various organic acids. EM1 helps regulate the soil's pH level and its soil microbes, improving moisture retention and drought tolerance. Remember last year's dry conditions? EM1 from Terraganics is safe, chemical-free, and certified for use on all organic farms. It improves plant quality, size, color, flavor, and gives up to 20% more nutrient value in fruits and vegetables and greatly increases shelf life. And EM1 is so simple to use, just mix with water and apply. This year, prepare your crisis garden for maximum yields with EM1 from Terraganics.com. Order now at TERAGANIX.com or call toll-free 866-369-3678. That's 866-369-3678. Terraganics. Life's getting better.
This is Jacques Vallée. You're listening to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio.
One more segment left with Dr. Roger Leir with Gene and Chris in the Paracast. And Dr. Leir was setting up a response to a question with some more information. Would you go on?
Okay, so we were talking about the camera and the lenses, and first thing we focused on was the moon. And then we dropped the camera down slightly to look at this, what we thought was a planet or star, and it seemed at that point to be much brighter than anything that we had seen, previously. Certainly brighter in intensity than the moonlight was. So that's when we started the push or zoom on the object, and we got about 300 millimeters, and we could see that it was a craft, which we could only see the front end of. And then when we pushed fully on the craft, full zoom, we could see that the side we were looking at looked like the side of a boomerang. And then we just kept the camera focused on that particular craft, and slowly it began to turn. And as it turned, we could see that the craft itself was being lighted by the full moon, but that there was light coming from 3 portions of the craft in the front, one in the middle and one on each side. And we looked very closely, and we could see that there was movement there. And again, we used the full zoom of the camera at that point, and we saw what appeared to be gray aliens standing there, whatever they were doing, operating controls and so on. So we just kept filming it until finally it just receded and disappeared. Now, we didn't see it fly away, or we didn't see it go up or down. It just faded out and disappeared.
How many degrees above the horizon was it?
I'd say maybe 70 degrees.
Okay, so it was way up in the air. Some of the debunkers have said that it's nothing more than a distant ocean liner or passenger ship approaching from over the horizon. So that you can't use that.
We sent the video into a university in Istanbul. It was connected with the government, and they went over it with their analyzed it, and it was major news. They don't hide anything in Turkey like is done elsewhere, such as the United States. And they verified that this was an actual craft, which they deemed a non-terrestrial craft. Then once we got that report done, Haktan Agodan, who's the head of the Cirrus Organization for Turkey did a number of television news programs, and amongst these programs were debunkers and skeptics and all sorts of people, and we brought out the analysis that was done, and there was nothing much they could say about it. Then about 2 months after that, the footage was sent to an analyst in Chile who volunteered to do it with an organization he was with, a very high-credentialed organization. And what he did was he used, Gene, what's called a frame splitter. The frames go by a television camera at 30 frames per second, but each frame is split into 2 sections called fields. So if you have 30 frames, you have 60 fields. So if you have a device that will isolate the fields, you can look, instead of at 30 pictures, you can look at 60 pictures, and there you get more detail. So he actually did an analysis of not only the craft, but the beings, and then he did the measurements of how high this was above the water, the angle from the beach, triangulation effects, what the beings were doing during the time that we were filming them, and there was more than grays that were there. He described them in great detail. Well, that information also will be up on my website soon. So, incidentally, my website is alienscalpel.com. Alienscalpel.com.
Well, I think a lot of our listeners are going to be intrigued enough to go take a look at that. I've seen the highly compressed versions on YouTube, which I understand, being in video, that a lot of detail is lost. I'd be really interested to see a high res version of some of the footage that's come from there, because quite frankly, hearing from you as being on site gives, in my mind, gives this whole scenario there in the Sea of Marmara a lot more credibility. Again, it's very difficult to determine from the other side of the planet the veracity of the people that are involved, but to have someone of your stature going over there, Dr. Leir, and seeing this with your own eyes, that goes a long way for me.
Yeah, well, it was a strange set of synchronicities that, I don't mind staying up late, but unless I'm engaged in some very important activity, I usually go to bed around 11:30, 12 o'clock. I don't stay up from 12 till 4 o'clock in the morning. And for me even to consent to do that, I don't know why I did it, to tell you the truth. But there was a number of us there. Jaime Maussan was there also, and he had his camera crew. But the main camera had the push ability to.
Well, the 600 millimeter, that's a large lens.
Yeah, it's a large lens. So as I said, when you see a little movement of the camera, it's only because there was a wind blowing, and it was even hard to keep the camera steady on a set of sticks. But to see this thing, I mean, to me was pretty convincing representation of, these were not Rorschachs. these were, black-eyed beings, as you could see, as clear as you would if you were looking in your neighbor's window.
Well, don't ask me about looking into my neighbor's window.
I know, you live in the country and you have no neighbors.
Well, actually, we don't live in the country. We do have neighbors. And they're nice people, so I wouldn't want to look in their windows.
Yeah, but their dogs are loud.
Yeah, we actually have neighbors with dogs on both sides of us. One has 6 dogs, one has 5 dogs, but 6 more puppies.
Oh, my gosh. And these are all St. Bernards?
Well, I think they're pit bulls.
Oh, okay. Well, then you're safe.
Well, they must like you, Dr. Leir, because they haven't barked once this whole segment, which I think may be a record. Correct me if I'm wrong, Gene.
Well, yeah, you know what it is the dogs are learning to cope with our dog. We have one dog. Our dog is Teddy Bear, and kind of a little sweetheart of a dog, a Bichon. And because he has such a pleasant, cheery personality, they're afraid.
Well, I know that this might be not too interesting to our listeners, but I also have 4 dogs. We have 2 small doxies. We have an intermediate size mixed breed and a full-blood female German Shepherd whose life is totally not entangled in UFOs. It's in what's called a ball. So anything in her life that doesn't have anything to do with a ball is superfluous.
Well, our dog likes these little tennis ball things that are made for dogs, and when you bite on them, they start squeaking. You know, this is the Paracast, and now, unfortunately, this week, the show has gone to the dogs. It's such a bad joke. Dr. Roger Leir, please tell our listeners where they can find more of the things that you do.
Well, again, my website is Alien, A-L-I-E-N, Scalpel, S-C-A-L-P as in Paul, E-L.com, alienscalpel.com. If they want to contact me, they can contact me on Leir, L-E-I-R, private, P-R-I-V-A-T-E, like a private in the Army, at AOL.com.
And with AOL, you never know if it's private. I don't want to say that. Chris O'Brien, where do we find more of your stuff?
Well, we live on a strange planet, as we found out today from Dr. Leir, and it's OurStrangePlanet.com.
Let me tell you, listeners, we have questions in our forums. Dr. Leir knows about it. We didn't have a chance to cover today, and we'll have him back in the near future to get to those. You can find us on Twitter, where we are known as the Paracast. We are the Paracast on Twitter. We also have a Paracast section on Facebook, 2 of them, and one day I'll figure out how to make them into just one. Dr. Roger Leir, thanks for joining us this week on the Paracast.
Thank you, Gene and Chris. I hope to be with you again soon.
The Paracast, featuring Gene Steinberg and Christopher O'Brien, is a copyrighted presentation of Making the Impossible, Incorporated. Tune in next week for a new adventure in The Paracast.